Well, we've all had our feast. We have all had our feast of whatever the hell we had. Now it's time for the errands of grievances.
The
Welcome
Festivus
to.
miracle,
Hmm?
the Festivus miracle shall begin, inshallah.
Yep. Uh, just to begin, I'm ImpCit, and well, to quote um, from Seinfeld, I got a lot of problems with this industry, and you're all gonna hear about it.
The name's Adam, and we are going to cover a lot of terrible garbage. Funnily enough, 2024 is still somewhat less bad than 2023 was, which is horrible. That's actually really fucking horrible.
And I'm Tech Priest, and uh, today I am incredibly thankful that I am not having to play Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
No, not Nito.
Wait,
This
that's
is not a
Thanksgiving.
Noivay stream. This is the Festivus special. This is a retrospective, just kind of on the status of entertainment.
Because remember, today is Festivus. Next week is Hanukkah.
We have come to bury current year entertainment, not to praise it. Well, actually, no. There are things to praise,
There
but
are things to praise. There's actually quite a bit to praise. We had some interesting releases both in the tabletop RPG market and in a few other arenas.
movies and TV shows, because I will go into some TV shows that I would recommend. But that is not there here now. We are going to talk about what's going on in the tabletop.
So I think first thing first is obviously the announcement that came to really not a lot of announcement, which is D&D's sixth 5.5 new revamp, remaster, whatever that is. They're giving you a new edition because it's been 10 years and they want money.
Essentially, yes. So D&D 5.5e, which is originally it was known as D&D 1, which was made fun of because you could easily turn it into D and done. Then it became D&D 2024, which is the actual official name because of the OGL kerfuffle, which also happened around this time. I think that's more of a last year issue. Yes, it was. But essentially it came out to nothing. No one's really seeming to play it. It has definitely outsold D&D 5th edition in initial sales, like if you compare them for their first month. But that's not surprising. If you really think about it, it is building off of D&D 5th edition. It already has its name brand essentially out there in the market. And in terms of what you get out of it, it's mostly just simplification. It's just not that interesting. The art is not very good. A lot of a lot of the minimal stuff in it is clearly AI inspired, uh, and it lost the plot. And for some reason, for D&D 2024, I think it's because they want to defile the setting. They made the main setting again Oarth. It's not Faerun, it's Oarth, despite the push for the past two editions for it using Faerun, which is
And
mostly
and
done so they could keep the rights to it.
and despite the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year. This is like
Not only
making
that,
a
but their last year also
yeah,
had the D&D movie, which while it flopped, was easily the best of the D&D
yeah.
movies.
It was
Th-
pretty funny.
Yeah. This is like buying the license to make your tabletop miniature game into a strategy video game, and then ending the setting, which is exactly what Games Workshop did
It's
with
really funny.
Warhammer.
It's really funny to see people still make this mistake.
It's almost
But
like these
at,
companies that
at
are
least
ran by people in suits don't really understand the common consumer.
at least in Warhammer's fault, the guy who was running the company may have been actually wanting to tank the entire company and sell it off to Hasbro. So he was deliberately destroying everything.
Oh, it's kind of like how Lorraine
I
Williams
love
didn't give a shit
capitalism.
about TSR except for how it could benefit the Buck Rogers properties.
I love unrestrained capitalism. It is my favorite thing, and in no way causes problems to beloved franchises and/or people you know.
But yeah, one D&D as Squirrel Killer, it was in our chat. I actually have the chat open as we're doing this. Don't worry, I'm watching what you guys type. It is one D&D. Either way, it is not necessarily dead on arrival. It'll probably sell well. This is my prediction. This is Adam's prediction. It will sell well for the first year, but ultimately what will kill it is they will try to monetize it and force you to go on virtual tabletop. They'll try to turn it into like a weird online service, and what that'll do is that'll have a 4E effect, which is what happened with 4E. They tried to sell, it did really well for the first year, and then it just completely fucking dropped. That
'Cause I
is
believe
my prediction.
they were pushing miniatures. They were pushing it as a very MMO focused game.
Well,
And,
they
and
I
were
would
trying
not
to
call it
go.
MMO focused.
I would say it's more. Hey, remember chainmail?
MMO,
Remember
sorry.
how D&D used to kind of spiral into minis? Let's try that again. Let's try to make everything better. But the
Let
problem was they kind of killed what made D&D feel D&D.
like here's the thing. Games Workshop right now appears to have a business plan of we make a new edition every 3 years. With that comes, in some cases, very radical or very different changes to the way that the game plays, which does force you then to get the new books for your army when it comes out. Plus, they'll give you new miniatures. So you could play the older ones, but to play with the current setting, the current rules, there's more incentive to because that's what everyone's doing. With like an RPG, it feels like that's not really the case. There's no real incentive to change edition, especially if you like it. They would
I can actually go into this. The core aspect of every tabletop RPG, the main units that always sell are the following three. It's your core rulebook, it's a player's guide usually, and sometimes it's the monster manual. It's usually the core basics. Adventure splats, all of that stuff, that doesn't actually sell well. Clan books, for example, from World of Darkness, never sold as well as the core. You want to know
Of
why?
course it didn't, because you
Because
need the core to play them.
yes, and on top of that, the people who usually bought them were the DMs. So the market when you're doing this is always going to be small. This is something that actually Wizards of the Coast realized when they did third edition. They realized that as they were pumping out monthly stuff, they got less sales than they would have otherwise. So
We
what's
also saw
like
it's something similar also to what happened with TSR back in the what was it, the late 80s, early 90s, kind of where they're printing a bunch of books in a churn, and it's not actually doing as much for them as you'd think. But that was more due, I think, to the deal that they had with the publisher regarding, I want to say, their like a lending ahead of time for the next book. It was
I
pretty
wouldn't
nuts,
be
whatever it was.
surprised because Lorraine Williams, because if it's the late 80s, early 90s, that's Lorraine Williams. It's likely she was lending to herself so that she can make money off of payments that they made to herself. She was a corporate raider, essentially. So my thinking, like I said, is that Dean Dead, as I'm going to call it, probably will have a good 1 year. It will probably sell 1,000,000 units and then it'll flatline. Mainly because, as something we've noticed with the 5th edition splats, the further in the adventure splats they got, well, just a lot of them are fucking terrible, so you're not going to see good sales for those. What'll be really curious is to see how well their virtual tabletop does. It could do quite well, mainly just because they do have the potential market. It's just it leads to the problem of will you get the D&D 5 heads to actually leave the edition? Because that is something that has been noticed in most tabletop communities. D&D 5th edition players fucking refuse to leave 5th edition. It is damn near impossible to get them to play anything else.
I think if you can make a lot of the rules or a lot of the setup that would come with a virtual tabletop, if you can make that really simple but provide a lot of options, I think people will go for that.
Foundry kind of does that. I mean,
That's the
it's hard
point.
on the DM's part because you have to essentially know some basics of coding, but you have mod packs that you can put on Foundry that does the thing for you.
It does the hard part for you, yeah.
But moving
But
on then with Wizards of the Coast,
the D&D
Matt,
killers, because if we're talking about D and Dead, we have to talk about, because both of them came out, there's the MCN thing. I forget the name of it. It's the Epic Dungeon Crawler that's like a big, dumb fighting thing. And then there's Kobold Press's attempt.
Tales
Uh,
of the Valiant or something like that.
Tales of the Valiant. So we can already tell you that Tales of the Valiant isn't doing well. D&D killer my ass.
The problem with that is if you're already aware that there's a D&D killer, you're already outside of the primary market for D&D.
Yeah, that's...
I hate to keep bringing it back, but it's the same thing with Warhammer. You keep looking at, oh, is this going to be the Warhammer killer? Is this going to be the Warhammer killer? If you're already aware and searching for it, that means you've played enough Warhammer, Games Workshop has already gotten your money, and now you want to explore something new. It could help if, again, the five heads actually go to something different, but those people are content with the game they have.
Yeah, they like it. But it's like, hey, I like it. I'm not going to change. Why would I
Ah,
bother changing?
a good correction. Draw Steel, which is what the actual one is being called, not out yet. But Cobalt Press's one is, and it is not doing well. Not surprising, given that something that is kind of observable is that in the tabletop market, much like in the minis market, if D&D or Warhammer 40k do like shit, the entire market does like shit.
Uh,
It's just due to the size and influence of its wake.
yeah. But I mean, you already are, at least with the miniature, starting to come up on people that want something more, want something new. Um, and I think it's going to be more so your local community and your local player base. Because there's no reason really to, let's say, switch to historicals if you're the only one who's bought that Prussian army. If you don't have that French army, or a Russian army, or an English army, you can't
And
really do
nobody to play with.
Napoleonics.
Comment from Maluinus is that D&D 5th edition is a decent system. The problem is more the ideological bent. That is part of it, at least with the later splats, because it does affect the writing to the point where it's just ineffective. Just take a look at what they did to Ravenloft. It, their politics did influence it to the point that a lot of the details of the setting are horrible. But I would actually argue that D&D 5th edition, they really didn't go far enough. They really should have actually committed to the complete overhaul rather than the quasi overhaul. There's enough stuff in it that I have issues with it, and it really just isn't balanced once you get out of the first half of the game. And by first half, I mean like 1 to 10. Once you get out of 10th level, yeah, things kind of fall apart because you either have to make the monster have so many unique moves that they can do on the fly instantly, they're extraordinary moves, to at least have the chance to kill them, or it's just going to be a big meat wall. I've seen how those actually play out.
So I guess moving on, I think we have a good understanding of what they've done with D&D. Magic is obviously card expansions, all that has come out. I've never played it. I have seen though, like they're coming out with these card packs that are more themed around a like something like remember there was a Fallout pack, there was a Warhammer pack.
Yeah.
So Magic has...
Those are an interesting thing. It's basically like their attempt to, because people have asked for stuff like that for years. They decided to finally do it because they really realized, holy shit, we can print money. And they did, but they've also kind of killed the product market in the first place because they're one of the few profitable divisions of Hasbro right now, I think.
They were the only profitable division of Hasbro, actually. So Magic is currently going through essentially an inflation spiral because what they're doing is they're overproducing cards to the point where local game shops are struggling to get rid of all of the fucking Magic cards. Do they sell well? Yes. In fact, depending on which deck you want, you actually can get them for quite a bit of money because of the demand for them. But on the other hand, because it's overproducing itself and because it's essentially just relying heavily on IP of IP past. Like, here's the thing from 1980s. Remember that? Here's the thing from the 90s. Remember that? Remember when you were a child and people were on cocaine and knew how to make good things? Remember? Well, here you go. We're currently kind of recreating stealing from ancient Roman ruins to rebuild Constantinople.
That actually brings up something that Ossel's saying is how much intellectual property can a company own before, well, it answers to, I guess, the government?
A lot. It can basically form a monopoly because technically there is competition.
And then here's the thing. It is an IP, it's not a patent. you can always make your own, or like Games Workshop. There is a cottage industry of people that make alternative Warhammer miniatures. You just rename Space Marines to be future soldiers, or you know, Imperial monks or something like that.
Meanwhile, the way that Magic handles its distribution, the way Hasbro basically does it, it's very much like how comic books did it. Which is to say, they'll just shove it on you. You just have to buy X amount of boxes in order to get the shit that actually sells. I wonder why these local comic stores and game stores are failing. I
The,
wonder.
the the only other thing with Magic that I've heard of, and this was recent, they renamed a plane from the word Kaladesh to Avishkar because apparently Kala is maybe like a Hindi slang for the word black, which,
Basically, it'd be the equivalent of calling it the town of black people, like a slum, like ghetto town.
well, Desh, it just means like country. Bangladesh, the home of the Bengali people.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still.
So, on the one
So,
hand, yes, that is a way you can translate it. On the other hand, no one fucking noticed it, not even the Indian people who bought this setting.
so, and
Because it's one interpretation of the language. And
um,
you've actually now invited people who are angry because you changed it for reasons. You actually might have done more damage by changing it than you would have been by just keeping it and just accepting the lumps. Because the
Because
interpretation that's
nerds
the issue.
are.
No, the interpretation is coming from people who don't even understand the language. Because
So
it wasn't
words for like.
actually an Indian who complained about it.
the
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is that like nerds hate change. It doesn't matter why you change something, we will find a way to hate it.
yeah,
We're going to save one particular note later when we talk about another IP.
yeah, the name is now Avishkar, which is the Hindi word for invention. They also apparently lore-wise justified the name change because of a popular rebellion in the plane.
I
It's
mean, at least
a
they gave a reason for the name. It's not a great one, but it's something.
it's not
It's better than if they just changed it and did nothing with it, like it was always there. What are you talking about? I'm not gaslighting you.
um
Which another IP did, which we'll
yep.
talk about.
And then the last thing I really happened, Elon Musk threatening to buy Hasbro because of
Oh
I don't
boy.
I don't know
know.
what book it was shitting on, like Gary
I didn't even
Gygax.
really shit on him. It's
It
just
did. It actually
It,
insulted the
I,
creators of the industry that they themselves benefit from.
yeah, I will say this.
It was
There's
actually
things
pretty
you
fucking
can
terrible.
there's things you can criticize for. When it comes to early RPGs, they're not really sensitive to non-Western cultures.
Well, on top of that, the problem is the criticism is specifically towards people that they essentially make a parody of. Like the Gary Gygax that they're trying to ruin and destroy is based on taking what he said occasionally online to an 11
The
without actually
the other
looking at
yeah,
the man himself. And
the other
that's
thing
really pathetic,
is that
especially since you are playing in his background, you are playing in his playground, you are working amongst his ruins, and you're taking a hatchet to it, grinning because you yourself can't create shit. That's how come they come off as cunts. And that's why Elon threatening them is funny, but I do think he would absolutely drag Hasbro to the ground because he himself is terrible at managing anything. And that the only reason he actually does well is he's surprisingly good at picking minders to handle his businesses.
more accurately, the other people in the company are great at picking his minders. When
Yeah.
Elon goes on his own, you get things like the Cybertruck.
Well, not just the Cybertruck. People always forget about the Hyperloop, the big white elephant that's in
Yeah,
California.
that's kind of just a given, though.
Yeah? Which is just a repackaged Goddard rocket train.
Yeah, except
the other
shit.
thing though is that
I mean,
it
that's what
came
SpaceX is. It's 1950s technology, but shit.
the thing with the I guess comment on Gary Gygax, I believe it came in a book that was about the history of D&D, and
It was, and it
having
was released for
having
the
that
50th
yeah,
anniversary. That's why it's so
having
fucking
that
insulting.
having that as your opening is not good.
It's insulting too because it's to celebrate the IP. Like it's an anniversary edition, and they did that. That is
You
why
could
they rightfully
yeah,
got fucking shellacked.
you could drop a comment saying some of the works were of their time, and we're thankful that we have such a that people have loved D&D despite flaws and mistakes, and we've grown to become a much more representative and much more just a much more opening and a greater universe for us to explore.
Nah, fuck that shit. Here you go.
Yeah, fuck that. Let's be completely careful, cautious, not actually do anything inventive. Except for changing the orcs to play like Mexicanos, because comparing them to black people has made us look racist.
Look, I am down for the Mexicork.
I am too.
If you play it right,
you
that
gotta
actually be
go.
hilarious.
You have to go all in. Give me Aztec style orcs.
Well, no, you don't even need to do that, because do you want to know what one of the big things about Mexican history in general is? Bloodshed. Do you want to know
Yeah.
what the Mexican founding fathers, how many of them survived the revolution they started? None of them!
Or
All of them were killed! And then many of their successors were fucking killed!
Oh wait, you're talking about the Mexican Revolution or the
Yeah.
Mexican independence
Yeah.
movement?
Because there's a lot. Well, there's a lot of Mexican revolutions and or independence movements.
Mexico enacts its change through bloodshed and tears. So you could totally do Mexa-Orcs. It could work really well if you play up the fact that when they invite change, you can even play it as they're chaotic, because they constantly rally against and hate the established order, because to them it usually invites misery. So they fight for that change with their blood, tears, and sweat. You could totally do it, and it would work. It would work well.
And I want orcs with sombreros riding on top of donkeys.
That would be fucking
donkeys,
great.
On donkeys is lame. Like, no.
It's
They have to be riding dinosaurs.
Okay,
all right?
Okay.
No.
I forgot that.
That's not cool enough.
And the
dire
dinosaurs
sloths.
have sombreros.
Dire ground sloths.
Sloths. Yes.
Dire ground sloths with the claws.
Yeah, but D&D's never gonna do that because they want to play it safe.
They want to play it safe by making these giant gray-skinned monsters that are 7 feet tall, known for their violation of humans and elves, by making them Mexican. That's gonna work just as well as when they tried to compare them to black people, which they got from Shadowrun, because they don't understand a fucking thing about what they bought.
Though, despite that, I just want to say, even without this, Ed Greenwood, still around. He has a YouTube channel, in fact.
He does. It's a very good YouTube channel. I actually recommend it. It's very interesting to hear what he thinks about the Forgotten Realms and how he views it as the creator.
And he dresses up as a wizard.
He does.
Yes, he does.
He'll also answer all the crazy questions you have up to, and how drow titty milk works.
Yes. What is the flavor of drow breast milk? Thank you, Ed Greenwood. I never knew I needed this in my life until I read about it from you. My life is now truly fulfilled.
Though, moving on from the first games company that starts with W, we're going to move on to the second, Warhammer.
Yep, a lot has come out for Warhammer, including the Old World, which I myself am not interested in, specifically because I know how that setting ends, and it ends with a very angry vampire condemning the world to death in one of the worst screw jobs ever written by a human.
Yeah.
That's a problem, but it does introduce a lot of units. It introduces a very good period of time to actually cover in that setting, because it is the great previous Storm of Chaos Wars with the previous Everchosen. Great pick.
And in terms of the miniature side, just the hobby side, the game itself works. People have discovered issues with it. Infantry, for instance, are not as powerful, but apparently the last edition, 8th, they were just OP.
Oh yeah, they were.
They overcorrected infantry. They've also kind of basically treated hero units as a little too powerful, but it's not unsurprising because they're basing it somewhat off of the Total War games.
Somewhat,
also, because
you want your heroes to be powerful.
Well, also basically think about it like this: you kill the IP and then you bring it back because you realize a lot of people fucking loved it in the Total War games. Makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
to copy it.
they're introducing, I guess the way they're doing like expansions, arcane journals, which give you new units, and something that is not really seen with Games Workshop, rules for units that don't exist. And by that, I mean they will say,
No
"Hey,
models.
no models." So it's, but they do something clever where you just combine models. Hey, you want uh, Tomb Guard chariots for your Tomb King's army? Take your regular chariot and put a Tomb Guard model on it. There you go.
They actually
And
even encourage you to use stand-ins or proxies with that in that mindset.
I actually think that's a good idea.
Base fillers. So if you got like a 40-man unit, instead of doing 40 models, you maybe make like 4 of them like a I don't know, like a tent or a bunch of grots fighting over each other.
Yeah, you could,
The
and that's actually something that is rather surprising because again, when you think of GW, you think of the money grubbing company, and it still is. It
Oh, it
definitely
does.
is.
Yeah, it still is, but I think
There's some serious change, at
they
least in the
treat
administration.
they treat these kinds of side games because the main game is Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They treat these ones like the Horus Heresy, Necromunda, um, Old World a little bit differently, and I think it's because that they know that these are for people that have been in the hobby long term and they like
Or
the
they're very dedicated.
customization. Yeah,
Yeah.
they like the detail, they like more in-depth stuff than the more basic rules they have for their main games. Um, so they're catering to that audience. But speaking of the main games, midway through the year they released the fourth edition of Age of Sigmar.
Still don't care
It's been
for it, but it's definitely been overhauled.
it's been around for 9, it will soon be a decade, which again is impressive because they launched
This makes me feel way too old.
they launched this IP in a completely haphazard way because they just killed off Warhammer Fantasy
They
and are
used
now
its
telling you,
corpse to construct
yeah,
it, and then on top of that, its initial edition tried to sell the terrain features more than they did the fucking game, and they had no coherent rule set.
no, well, they had a rule set,
A terrible one.
but they also didn't have points.
Like, you couldn't
So
even
Yeah,
you
really
still had to
figure out
figure.
how to fuck to win, or even set up anything. And the rules were arbitrary and insane.
They've
which
corrected
it's
it.
Warhammer.
Yeah,
Of course, it's arbitrary and insane. If it wasn't, I wouldn't call it
yeah.
Warhammer.
They've changed things up um, with the lore as well. Basically, the main threat now is the Skaven. Uh, the Great Horned Rat became a god now, and the Skaven are running amok and doing crazy stuff. The miniatures, as always, are very beautiful.
I will have to say
Uh,
that even though I really hate Age of Sigmar, and it's specifically because of how it was created, if it was created as like a third IP, like you could have it set in an alternate future, if they did that, I would have been totally fine with it.
uh,
It's the fact that they killed fantasy specifically for it that's the problem. But
and
even with that, you have to say, just look at some of the models. Some of them are actually really good, to the point where you could totally use them either in 40K or in your old fantasy armies. I mean, they'll make your fantasy models look like fucking shit because, let's be
uh, uh,
frank, a lot of them are.
yeah, I will say that,
They
and they're
look
all
like shit. They
ve-
don't play like
very,
shit. They look
very,
like shit.
yeah, very creative. They're coming out soon with a new Grot Goblin army. Basically goblins on the wolves and on chariots. They hate the sun, as they call it, Snarl Face Frazzlegit. And they believe that their metal that they have for their shields, their weapons, steal the sun energy, and when they're attacking somebody, they unleash it, which just means that they drive up to the enemy and explode.
That
They're
is the
essen-
most
they're
goblin thing
yeah
I've ever heard.
Yeah, they have a
they're
habit of exploding, which is funny.
they're essentially like Mongolian raider suicide bombers.
They're basically warg riders from Lord of the Rings if they were on meth and exploded. As for Malwinius, I have not versed through the lore. I have just heard that Age of Sigmar is the woke version of Warhammer Fantasy. It is not.
It is not. It is not.
It
Now
it
I will say
is.
it allows for more diversity in terms of skin color, but that's based on the nature of the setting. It's not like a geographically focused, like, oh, this is
I would say the best way to
You know,
describe Sigmar, and this is one of the other reasons I would never have been a fan of the IP anyway. It's Planescape, but in Warhammer form.
I think that's a good way to point it.
It's essentially Planescape because you're playing primordial forces trying to essentially restructure the universe as you see fit. And the primordial force you can pick is something more like order, which is Sigmar's kind of take, chaos itself, destruction, or just other factions basically trying to reshape the world after it got fucked
Yeah.
up.
But the thing is that they still keep that darkness of Warhammer because
They do. It's just I don't give a shit.
here's
It's
what Order contains. It contains, yes, Sigmar's forces, and Sigmar is supposed to be the god of men and all that stuff, but it also includes Morathi's group, a bunch of misandrous witch elves that murder the fuck out of anybody because it's how they empower their god Cain.
Yep. There are some weird alliances of convenience in the Sigmar universe, which I think is very funny.
Yeah,
It's just at the end of the day, it's the wrong type of game for me. It's way too.
there's also the
Eh.
faction of skeleton tax collectors.
There are.
Yep,
Now
they
the
want your
tax is
bones.
yep, it's your bones, but you got that. You've got a mercantilist steampunk dwarf army, and what I mean by that is they are dwarves, very stubborn. They're very stubborn to their rules and their guidelines, uh, and very mercantile. They'll be willing to fight for whichever side as long as they get their gold. Uh, they also are in steampunk, as in like metal dirigibles.
Which is rad. Like,
And then there's
It
the
would be
naked
rad if
dwarves
you
that are
don't
on
mind the
fire.
replacement of the low fantasy, as Squirrel Killer mentioned, the low fantasy. I wouldn't say low magic because it's pretty
God
high
no.
magic.
Like,
Oh no,
I would not call Warhammer a low fantasy
Actually, it
setting.
is high fantasy, but like the scale is different. Actually, you're correct.
that's
The
like
scale is what you're looking at
It's
with
the
that.
like
scale.
your wizards in fantasy are shooting fireballs or lightning bolts. In Age of Sigmar, they're outright summoning an elemental creature of flame and charging it towards the enemy.
Which, yeah, that's
Which is
cool.
base.
It's just I don't give a shit if oh no, this cosmological, but the scale is too fucked. It's the same reason I did not give a rotten fuck for Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which all did multiverse shit. I don't care.
But
I
Aside
just
from
don't.
Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Moon Knight was okay.
No, they fucked it up at the end.
How did
But
they fuck it up at the end?
They just did.
Oh my god.
They made the gods real.
Well, they always were.
No,
That
they
was the
weren't.
thing. Like that. No,
That's the
Khonshu
point.
is real. No,
No,
Khonshu is
he
real.
wasn't.
Oh
Because
my
the whole
Which
no,
run of
the
Moon
whole
Knight were you
point.
reading?
No, the whole point is you don't know if he's fucking crazy or not. That's kind of the whole point. There's some power, yes, but it's never confirmed that Khonshu, as he sees him, is real.
I mean, couldn't the gods still be real and he still be crazy?
Yes.
Which is what
He
they
is already
tried to
crazy.
do,
He
and
has
they
multiple
fucked it up at the
personalities.
end.
Like, oh my god.
I mean,
You know, you can still fuck up things at the end.
Speaking of good things that came out this year, Marvel Rivals, surprisingly good. It also canonized Dracula owing Moon Knight money. Which think if you
well, Melanie, so you talk about Mutant Chronicles. I've heard of it. It just hasn't been relevant in years. Like there has it could definitely you definitely could get it, but there's not much
It's
to it.
something that I've heard of. It's just I've never really bothered to look at it.
Yeah.
It's nothing
Wasn't there a
against it. It's just
bad
I've
movie
never
with
gotten to it.
wasn't there a bad movie with Ron Perlman in it?
There's a lot of bad movies with Ron
yeah, I was gonna
Perlman
say
in it.
like
Oh,
be
there's
more
a lot of that.
specific. Be more specific.
But speaking of video games, Space Marine 2.
That is the other big thing that came out for Games Workshop, and it is a glorious game.
Very well done.
Which is actually surprising because the last time I heard about Space Marine 2, at least until the build up to its release, there were some concerns about how the storyline would have. No, it's not an issue really.
Actually, there is something funny with the storylines. So, to spoil a game that's been around for, God, how many years? Space Marine 1, at the end of it, the main character gets taken away by the Inquisition because he was able to confront chaos without turning into a gribbly gobbly goo. They then have, obviously, the character was captured and now he's released. To explain that, they took this Inquisitor and made him the Inquisitor that's in like the first story on the Realm of Chaos books, which was made in the 80s. It was one of the first books on chaos, and there was a scene where an Inquisitor is looking over the remnants of this destroyed chapter, the Grey Slayers, and ends up turning into a chaos spawn because he touches some artifact. Both of those Inquisitors have the same name, Inquisitor Thrax. So they just retconned it. So, oh yeah, that guy is the same guy that was in Space Marine, and his death allowed them to find Titus and free him from his imprisonment and join the Death Watch.
Which is just, it's actually kind of a neat touch to bring something from that old back.
Honestly, the introduction of Space Marine, somebody did like a whole video on it where it's like, this is the best way to introduce something like this because there's not much information. It's just vibes. Just go with the vibes.
Yeah, and the second game does a pretty good job at recreating that.
And what's funny is, again, how many people are able to jump onto it, and also how many people actually get it. When you have VTubers of all things
Understanding the plot,
understanding that the theme is not, oh, this is supposed to represent traditional based humanity fighting against degeneracy or a complete satire on fascism. No, it's humans suck.
It's humans suck and the universe is worse.
I thought 40K's message was that you can never trust anyone from the UK.
It's just, and then it got worse. That's the best way to describe it. And then it got worse. I will say that in terms of the bright side of things, Games Workshop has basically gone from hit to hit, essentially, up to and including a TV show.
Yes, they did confirm that they will be getting the Amazon show, with a hint that they may also do Warhammer Fantasy.
Oh, don't forget the Astartes guy got to do a new animatic, which is fucking fantastic.
Yep. Hit after hit after hit. There is one thing that you're about to mention it, actually.
Yeah. So, they decided to introduce female Custodes. For those of you who do not know, the Custodes are the bodyguards of the Emperor. They are specifically even more genetically tailored and superhuman than the Space Marines. They're more of a work of art.
The way to put it is that the Emperor wants to advance humans. The first thing he does is the Thunder Warriors. That's a bit of a hit and miss.
Incorrect.
They're unstable.
So in short,
I thought was the Astartes. Sorry, no. Was the?
He wasn't trying to accelerate humanity. Let me go briefly.
Two different things.
No, he wanted enhanced. He wanted enhanced human soldiers, is what I mean.
As a stopgap, yes. The Thunder Warriors started as a stopgap method to unify the Earth quickly because the Techno-Barbarians usually had similarly enhanced warriors or horrors of some sort, like abominable intelligences or so on. So this was a very quick stopgap method using, essentially, he basically pulled a Tony Stark. He built these superhumans in a cave with scraps. And it really shows in how psychotic they are. They're very unstable, they're insane, and he got them all killed on Mount Ararat. I mean, they died gloriously in Mount Ararat.
I mean, they all got murdered there by...
And then he
did the Custodes, and the Custodes were, like, excellent.
Well, no, the Custodes are at the same time. The difference is that the Space Marines, Thunder Warriors, they are mass-produced.
They are mass-produced and represent essentially the Roman legions.
It's bespoke. These are bespoke soldiers made handcrafted to the Emperor's exacting specifications by the finest of artisans.
Well, no. The Astartes are to Roman legions as the Custodes are to the Praetorian Guards. They are the elite imperial. Well, essentially in terms of role, not in terms of what they do.
In terms of role, yes. In terms of what they do and like the actual quality,
because all of them are custom tailored, not by the Emperor specifically, but based on their own gene pool and their own innate potential. So they're all grafted and built in a way that maximize their potential skill.
They are also not. They don't have a gene seed.
They don't,
Right.
which
because
may
they're
or may
just-
not have some warp influence to it. So they're more free.
Well, I mean, they don't need the GNC. That's the thing.
because
The whole point of the GNC is
they are
to,
psychodoctrinally taught from a young age as noble scions of Terra. So they already
Well-
have a commitment to serving the Empire just
well,
from where they are.
It's not that. It's not
But-
that. The whole point of the GNC is to allow rapid creation of a superhuman.
And
Yeah.
reproduction, because it's supposed to
Well,
essentially,
think of it-
yeah.
Think of it this way. It's like the Spartans. You have the Spartan 2s, which are incredibly powerful, but only a few of them.
And then this is the Spartan.
you
the
have-
Spart- yeah.
And
yeah.
the Astartes are
that's
Spartan
based-
3s.
Spar-
Flash
Spartan- no,
batches.
I would argue Spartan 4s.
Yeah.
No, the Spartan 3 program is more accurate because it also involves the traumatization of children abducted from families and all that sort of shit. So
You're
you know,
right. Okay.
But
All right.
yes, as a whole, up until this year, they were seen solely as men, specifically because the only examples we had were of men.
we're of
The
men.
only,
Now-
and the models were only men. And
I
too.
do want to note that Adam Domesky-Borden, the guy that wrote the first Heretic and a few other like really fan favorite novels in 40K, did mention that there was an attempt at some point they were considering mentioning that there was a female Custodes
I
in one of the
feel
novels.
like that's a retcon. I feel like you can't really trust
No,
anything
no,
that they say now.
no, he wrote that years ago. Like
he wrote that years ago.
He
Yeah,
specifically wanted to have them be like male and female, but corporate said
I
we
don't-
only have male models.
Don't know about that because it's really easy to fabricate a comment like that.
It could have been,
So,
but
Here's
they
the thing about it is, the way Custodes are made are according to not a gene seed, not to a template. It's based on your own genetics. So them being women, having women companions, not unreasonable. In fact, it wouldn't be unsurprising.
this is literally the peak of humanity. Like
It's
we're
fine
talking.
in that respect.
Yeah.
It is how it was introduced because it was done in a gaslighting. They've always been there. They've always been there, and you are a sexist if you don't think so. And it also came out conveniently around the time when they were having trouble getting the Amazon show greenlit. So
Personally,
it came off
I-
as tit for tat, and it was done bluntly.
I don't believe
It is not
any
a
of that.
lore breaker. It is not a lore breaker, but the way it was handled was dog shit.
I don't
Exactly.
believe any of that idea that this was a caving to Amazon or anything like that. I just think it's the timing. The
It was the
timing was
timing.
You say
and
that, but Amazon
here's what-
Entertainment is pretty fucking stupid.
they
and
were
they're
already
really
making
fucking
the new
stupid.
models for female Custodes before that though. Like
Well, no,
otherwise they wouldn't have
no.
been able to release them in
That's
time.
the problem. They did not have any female models. If they had a
They
range
did not,
refresh,
actually.
which they maybe should have done, and added female heads. And honestly, that's what they should have done. Female heads. I think that would have
Because
solved
once
a
you
lot
get
of problems.
disaugmented, I don't think your body type is going to vary too much outside of.
Because
This
yeah,
is a
because they
brick
did
of muscle.
because they did come out with an animation of which included a female custodian.
And
And
she
it
just
looks
looks
exactly
like a
the same.
normal custodian. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
it just happens to be.
And it does make a little bit sense that it should be a female like custodian because they're not shock troopers. They're not disposable like the Marines.
right.
It is to show that they are different. Could they have? They could have left it out, but
I would
it's
say,
not.
like I said, it's not lore breaking because of how they are constructed. It is a garbage attempt to insert them, though, because of how they were inserted. That is the problem.
Something though.
I
and they-
want to say though
I-
that the people did completely overreact to it.
They did
I
overreact.
don't
but
think
I
so.
will
Not
be honest.
because of the year that this came out in. If this
Yeah,
came out in
there-
2018, I don't think anyone would have given much of a shit.
They
Well, they
No,
would
they
have,
would
but
have.
not as
Oh, they
much.
would have. No,
But
you
not-
you
not to the
Oh.
point where they're saying basically Warhammer has gone woke. It's over.
Well, they would have,
Because
but not to the
they would
degree.
have.
Yeah.
No, they still would have to this degree. It's just
I don't know about that because the difference is they came out with it this year as opposed to if it was early on in the or if it, like let's say 2014. If it
If
came
they
out
did
in
in
2014,
2014 and
No
what
one would
was
have
the
cared.
part of the vernacular then?
that would have made
Here's-
that would have been fine because then they brought out the new finally for the first time ever Custodes models. The only thing
Yeah.
we had was what? The image of... We've seen a few images of them, and the naked ones guarding the Emperor, which, by the way...
Well, not the
game...
naked ones guarding the Emperor is a joke edit. That's not the...
It's not.
No,
Well, no,
no,
it's not
that's
a
not a
joke
joke
edit.
edit.
It's from
That's
a
not
really
that's not-
old edition.
It is when the Emperor's looking like just a head and a torso on a...
Yeah, it's a really
In a
old
tube.
edition.
Oh, is this like fucking Rogue Trader era?
That's Rogue Trader.
It's from Rogue
Games
Trader.
Workshop,
fuck.
you know what you have to do. Got Juan Diaz. We're gonna have to have naked female custodies.
It's similar
I'm
to
sorry,
how.
but we gotta respect the lore.
Yeah, naked female custodian. There's also the matter that it's similar to how there probably are all female IG regiments too. It's just you never really
Oh
see
no,
them get
mentioned.
named.
yeah,
That's like canonical. It's
It
in
is.
the lore.
and it's also because, well,
It's not lore breaking. The Custodes thing is not
yeah.
lore breaking. It is when it was announced. It was how it was announced, and it comes off as gaslighting because of how it was announced. Because it was there's always been female Custodes. Bigot. That's what it comes off as.
Well, they didn't have the bigot, but yes, they did say that.
Oh
there were
no, there's a few that did, along with a few creepsters that are like, finally, my muscle mommy fucking fantasies became reality.
Like,
No,
Well-
there were not in the company because GW isn't frickin' stupid. At least not to that way.
They have done some things. I do remember that. I think with a novel in Bretonia, like a recent one, they have made female knights. I don't know if they're then getting rid of the whole there can't be female knights thing.
I think it's one of those. They say they're men. We just believe them because they're
That-
knights.
That
That
would be
drag
good.
makes sense.
That might be their justification for it,
That
which
would-
makes
that would be
total
It's a
fine.
common thing that
The-
happened historically. So if you wanted
the-
to do a female knight that was in drag, basically pretending to be a dude, sure.
The other thing that would be interesting then is to say, yes, at this point, it was a cultural thing. Culture developed, and they had females.
They
and
shifted
then,
over towards no female knights after this. Yeah, that's
or
I mean,
no,
it's like,
there was a point where they were in that way, and then they changed.
I mean,
That
at that
would be
point,
cool.
you're
'cause
kind
it's
of
like what,
fuddling with the
400
lore.
years. It's like 400 years between this and the end, like the end times era, right?
Yeah, but
Like,
the problem is
300.
you're kind of basic. Like Bretonia has always been a lot more regressive in that regard. Like you're trying really hard to essentially retcon their very chauvinistic fucking. Like that's the whole thing. They are not just masculine. They're horrendously chauvinist.
Because they're French. Yeah.
Yes. Like you're kind of trying to essentially. What's the term for graffitiing over King Tut's tomb? Like, replacing all of the Egyptian hieroglyphics with, like, New Age dildos or something. You're kind of trying
Basically,
to do that.
Basically, Adam is going. They changed it. It sucks now.
No, they're trying to retcon. No.
No, they're changing it, so it sucks now. Is kind of what you're going after.
No, I'm going with the
as I
female
said,
knight and drag
we,
thing makes
we
sense.
hate change. We hate change as nerds, and
It
we
is
will
not that it's a
argue
change.
incessantly
It
about
is.
it.
It is
yeah,
change to get people who don't play it, who are called tourists. It is change to get people who only complain about it and never play it, to get off your
Normies.
back in a terrible
Normies,
way.
get out.
The only
They're
thing
not
is,
even normies.
we will have to wait and see what happens. The thing is, with Games
I don't have
Workshop right
issues
now,
with how Games Workshop works, though, because traditionally, they're not ideological. They're not. It's usually if they do something, it's because
all
money,
about the money.
which is what a good company works on.
like I was saying, if Games Workshop would resell the old Pygmy models and
If
give
they
you
thought there was a market, yes.
Yes,
and
they
give
would.
you a point by point step on how to get the exact red you need on their lips. If there was money in it.
Like I said, if you wanted
At
to
the
have
same time,
Yeah.
I could legitimately see Games Workshop re-release the Pygmy models, update them, and give them an actual respectful lore.
No, what they should do is that they should also release the stereotype pygmy models as like Loa summons that the normal pygmies can use as meat shields.
That would be the best way for them to save money possible.
Like, look, here's these horrible fucking stereotypical pygmies, but they're not really humans. They're actually summons made by the real pygmies as bodyguards. They're actually made out of clay.
They're little demon things that
They're
they
little
create.
imps, yeah.
Yeah. Though speaking of a series that is known for unfortunate racism, World of Darkness.
Oh god. So World of Darkness has been nothing but misery.
Let's do a quick rundown of the year. Bloodlines 2 confirmed. It's going to come out from the Chinese room no matter what. At this
So
point, it's going to be awful.
yeah,
We're sorry, everyone who pre-ordered. It's going to
Don't.
suck ass.
get rid of your pre-order. So let me go into what's going on a company level. Paradox has gone through a massive shakeup in terms of management this year and last year. And what happened is the new people, they're looking at the World of Darkness, they're looking at White Wolf and going, this thing's a
This
fucking
ain't
white
making us
elephant.
money.
It's
This
not
ain't
making
making
us
us
money. This project went way over cost. Just dump it. Dump it.
He bought. Dump it. The next step that they're kind of doing is that they're also trying to consolidate the IP brand now. They've officially ceased the Chronicles of Darkness line, best we can tell.
It's not even because it's legitimately they're terrified it's cutting into their profit. They really want Vampire. They want the old World of Darkness to profit. They want to really, at least initially. Not the new guys, not so much. They don't give a fuck anymore. But the previous guys really wanted the World of Darkness to profit. They wanted to make a bunch of AA games out of it. They wanted to make IPs. They wanted to get it into maybe even TV shows.
The problem is that the 5th edition
The
rollouts
linchpin
have
that they
been
had,
garbage.
Yeah, the linchpin they were focused on, Bloodlines 2. First, they sent it to Hardsuit Labs way back when. That didn't work. They couldn't fucking commit. So then they pulled it, burned all the money, restarted it, and sent it to the Chinese studios.
Chinese rooms, which is the guys that did Amnesia Machine for Pigs, which
sounds good,
game,
but you got to remember it's a walking simulator, and that's all they know how to make.
Yeah, it's a good walking simulator. It's got
but they
one of the
made
best
it 10
ending
years
monologues
ago.
ever.
They made it 15 years ago, and the people working on it aren't with the company anymore.
Right.
And they also proved that they can't do anything. In fact, they actually stole assets from other companies to even get as far as they did. And originally, I thought maybe they'll dump it for a third company, which would have also somehow been worse, because Paradox is much like Warner Brothers Studios when it comes to movies. When it comes to games that they don't make, Paradox just magically picks the shittiest fucking teams possible to work on Bloodlines.
Yeah,
but because of the corporate shakeup, not happening. They're just dumping it.
They're just going to say, fuck it, ship it as is. Make some money back on this project. The next step with that is that Onyx Path has finally released their side reels book this year. So you too can now play Punch Wizard Time Magicians in.
They're also making Curseborn, which is their attempt to basically repurpose what they've made. Because I'm going to be blunt, out of the version 5 of the World of Darkness compared to the Chronicles 2nd edition, Chronicles fucking wins every time because they learned their lessons when they made New World.
Yeah, remember, Onyx Path was created by people from White Wolf that left the company to try to continue the IP stuff because of licensing bullshit. It has developers that worked on the original New World of Darkness.
They knew what they were doing. They already made the mistakes that Vampire 5th edition made. They already fixed the mistakes that Werewolf 5th edition went through. They fixed the mistakes that they did with Mage. They fixed all of that. They went through all of the errors. They retweaked it. They retweaked the system so that you don't run into the scenario where you have a big dice pool that actually fucks you, because Old World of Darkness, a big dice pool actually could ruin you.
Yeah, and part of the thing is that we could go on length. We could do an entire just lore rambling about what the change between Requiem and Masquerade was, and how it impacted things, and why people got turned off by it, despite the fact that mechanically it was a better choice.
It's a mechanically better choice, but because of the loss of lore, and unlike, say, Mage the Ascension, which is tied too much to the Paradigm War, and unlike Werewolf, where you can kind of still repurpose it fine, Vampire very much was based on its politics. It's to the point where people forget that this is one of the things with Vampire 5th. The Anarchs were supposed to be the protagonists. It's just no one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. They played Cammy. They almost always played Cammy.
I mean, that's the thing. Like the original Vampire run is kind of saying the Anarchs are kind of right. Was sort of the original.
Yeah, but no one fucking cared.
But nobody fucking cared, which is
because
the
Camarilla came off as reasonable, despite the efforts to make them not.
I wouldn't call them reasonable. I would say like a
The
better
rules-
alternative when the Sabbat is right at the fucking door.
Well, also keep in mind that they're usually pretty freewheely with what you do, unless they have a job for you.
Yeah,
Like they usually leave you alone.
they leave you alone until they don't. At which point you are probably about to die.
Yep. But yeah, essentially what happened is Onyx Path is essentially having to start from scratch again. Thank you, Paradox, you pieces of shit. In terms of other things, that Paradox has also released other games. Because the way
I
they
do think
handle it is they just hand the IP to any minor developer they want. Basically, if you can make a game and we can okay it, and like you could just fucking do it.
I do think
And
we should bring up that the specific game is Curseborn
yeah, I
that
mentioned
Yes.
Onyx
Curseborn.
Path is making. No.
It is Curseborn. I have not looked at the rules yet. I'm assuming it's using the story path system or the storyteller system, whatever they're fucking calling it these days. You know,
They
the
might have
one.
to customize it. Well, it'll be interesting if they
Yeah.
have to actually slightly file the numbers off again.
But I will
They
shout-
probably will, which fair enough.
I will shout out the Gentleman Gamer on YouTube is who I believe worked on that and still making
Yep.
videos on it. So if you want to, I guess, learn more about it, go to him.
Yep,
He also
strong
did. He was also on. Yeah, he was also on several podcasts with Onyx Path, as he was a developer with them from around, I want to say 2014 or so, for a few years.
He apparently, yeah, I was watching one video of his. He apparently was on the team that was initially writing Werewolf 5th edition. And
Before they handed it off to another.
Yeah. And it would be very interesting to honestly to pick his brain of like, because as much as we think that the setting is weird,
why they made these changes. Like I want some explanations on why and like how this was decided. That's kind of my main thing with like 5th edition Werewolf is it's like there's some good stuff in there. There is. It's just
I wouldn't even say there's good stuff because most of the best stuff is just from previous editions. The funniest thing is the previous originally there was going to be a good Werewolf 5th edition book, but then what happened was some Arab guy that's on the team, basically he was the main project guy, had such a
rumor.
bug
We have
up
no
his
confirmation.
ass. No, it's very clear because we've gotten documentation on this guy. Got such a bug up his ass about the Get having neo-Nazis at one point in their group. By the way, ignore that the Brujah had the same problem. In fact, actually, if you read the original stuff on Brujah, they were filled with neo-Nazis.
Remember, Brujah neo-Nazis made the Burning Fists thing that every fucking Brujah player takes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that the Brujah got away with it, but the Get didn't. I wonder why.
Probably because the Brujah are vampires, and everybody likes vampires.
They're also radicals. I believe the
They're
Brujah
just
were also
in
responsible.
general
neo-Nazis are radicals if you think about it.
Yeah, no,
well,
I mean
no,
they're in general
they are.
radicals.
But like they were also responsible for communism.
Like
Or, like,
yeah,
for the Soviet Union.
the Brujah are in general radicals. It's just what they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big difference, at least to some people's minds, than, oh, these are people obsessed with the strength and they're German. Oh no.
But yeah, essentially the Get got retconned into being the villains because, oh no, they're German and we hate them.
As we all know, Germans must be evil in whatever RPG you play.
I do want to say with all that, I can't wait for Mage 5th edition, where it turns
it's
out
gonna be a
Elon Musk and
fucking
Donald
dumpster
Trump
fire.
are in control of the technocracy.
I cannot
and they're
wait
also
for
Nafandi for some reason.
I cannot wait for the concept of the technocracy basically puppeteering all of politics now through the evil Elon Musk stand-in.
That's just what the New World Order already does, though,
That-
for technocracy.
But they're gonna do it in such a blunt, cack-handed, shitty, pathetic, hypocritical way because they ignore the billionaires that are on their side. You see, every one of them have billionaires. They just ignore the billionaires on their side.
Or I guarantee how they're going to bring up the issue of medicine and vaccines.
Oh, I can't. That'll be horrible. It'll be so great.
Because the verbena, there are definitely verbena, because again, they can prove it with magic, that would say vaccines are bullshit.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, so those are the verbena, and they're weird. They are weird.
I cannot wait for the anti-pharmaceutical arc of Mage 5th.
The RFK Junior. Okay, there's your new character concept. Everyone playing Mage 20th, RFK Junior, but a verbena. You were imagining
No,
it
you don't.
now,
No,
and
you don't understand. Here's the stuff that I have in these vaccines. Here's an actual vaccine with the dead virus in it. Here's some vodka that looks like the vaccine, and here's
See.
water. Oh, and last but not least, here's rat shit that I've diluted so that it doesn't look like rat shit.
I see. Yeah,
Look,
no,
I didn't
look,
say
the
anything,
RFK,
and they all had the same problem of not catching the disease.
the RFK Junior Verbena though. I'm just imagining because you know this dude. He fucking eats raw meat and he cuts off the heads of whales and hauls
Not
them
just
around.
raw meat, raw
That's
Mexican meat, because raw pork from America wouldn't have given him tapeworm eggs in his brain.
Oh wait, no, that's his focus. It's the dead worm in his brain. It's the avatar. It's how he connects to the avatar.
I'm just envisioning like the dead worm pops out of his brain as like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure avatar behind him.
The fucking stand of JFK is his head exploding and the worm coming out. Gentlemen, I'm CIA.
Do it for me. Do it for Bobby.
That'd be great.
No, that's the fucking name of the stand is Dr. Pavel. I'm CIA.
You know, the sad thing is that's still going to be more entertaining and enjoyable than anything they'll do in Mage. Yeah, this year has been dour and miserable if you're a World of Darkness fan.
Though you know what it's
been
not
rough.
not dour for?
Well, no, there's one more
Battle-
thing. You forgot one more thing. A book came out, and it was basically a way to make super fan fiction Mary Sue OCs for your werewolf. Because they have a journal entry thing that allows you to write
why
super
not?
long
Wait,
character descriptions.
That wasn't always the case?
No, but like
Right.
it's even longer now. They have an even longer character sheet specifically for werewolf
I see the furry
with
community found the game
relations. Also, yeah, they brought back the Wolfkin. They brought back Wolfkin so that you can now abuse humans again and fuck them. Because what happened was they got rid of them. They got rid of them. They got rid of the gooning.
I was shocked.
And people threw
I was
a
shocked
fit.
that they got rid of like kinfolk and like wolf
They
blooded
did.
because like that's been a huge part of werewolf from the start.
Yeah, they got rid of it because they didn't want people to goon, and then the sex pests got angry, so they had to add it back. Not even a year later.
The furries have won once again.
Except in Dungeons and Dragons, they don't win there.
They did win because the litany is no longer there. You can fuck
That's
werewolves to your
true.
heart's content.
Yes,
That's
they
true.
win.
They have the furries have won Apocalypse once again. Dear God, help us all.
Yeah, World of Darkness is dead. What's the next company?
BattleTech.
Back to another company that it seems to be absolutely fucking insane. CGL with BattleTech because they still haven't finished shipping out the pre-orders.
So they still haven't finished the CEO's garage and
the
all
CEO,
of his
porch and his garage are still yet to be completed. They need a little more money, I guess, for that.
At the same time, though,
I mean, I got my Kickstarter, but I know of some people that still haven't gotten theirs.
You know, the last time I've
It
seen
is-
a Kickstarter fuck up this bad was actually in the comics industry. There was this dude who made a book called Cyberfrog, and if you actually paid him more money, you wouldn't get your book. But if you gave him the bare minimum, you got it before everyone else.
I'm
Based?
I'm
It's
pretty sure. Though,
hilarious.
yeah, this is CGL encountering the issue of logistics, as in, holy crap, we did not know how much Tex Talks BattleTech would be popular and influence.
It's not only that.
It's just BattleTech in
we
general.
chose the shittiest company to ship our shit, who has to repack everything because they packed it wrong.
So yeah, basically they're still having shipping issues. That's kind of the big thing. BattleTech's still kind of on life support, kind of not. It's chugging along.
I would not. No, it's not life support. It is definitely growing more popular.
It's growing more popular. It's expanding. It's
Okay.
got a lot of
we got
buy-in
Mech
now.
Warrior 5. We've got
By life support,
the
I don't mean
clan.
like it's dying. I mean like it's just kind of chugging along, just doing its thing.
As long as they can tell the culture warriors that are saying, "Oh my God, there's lesbians and transgenders in this game. It's gone woke."
No fucking shit. There's both.
It's
in there.
BattleTech. It's BattleTech. It's had a
one of the first things I vaguely remember were like two female mech pilots like fucking scissoring in the super hot fucking cockpit or whatever. Who cares?
like
You can
like,
have
who
gay.
cares?
You can have gay elemental sex
it
all you
doesn't matter,
want.
Shinji. What gay? Look, Shinji, you can have all the gay transsexual sex you want.
Shinji,
Just
you
get
can-
in
you
the
can fuck-
fucking robot.
Yeah, Shinji, you can fuck Kaworu and the robot all you want. I don't care. I don't care.
Get
Get
in
the
the
robot
robot.
and kill the Steiners.
Like that's the thing about BattleTech. They even talk about is like mech warriors are not like super common. You need compatibility with the neuro helmet. If you don't have that, you can't be a mech warrior.
If
They're
you
all-
want to be an
they're also-
insane, autistic, disabled man, you could have like the best mech relay responses out there, and you'd still be a pilot.
You can have a BattleTech group that's a priest, a rabbi, and an imam.
You could.
I'm not.
Priests
There are there
the
there-
all riding regions.
the Pope of the
New
Davian
Avalon.
of New Avalon has a mech.
It's
It
painted gold.
ain't a Pope-mobile.
It's painted gold, by the way, and he's named it like something churchy as well. It's fucking radical. The dude is an actual former like militant knight hospitalier. Like the BattleTech is a crazy, stupid setting, and I love it for that.
I will agree.
But yeah,
though,
Catalyst
with,
did piss off a
with
lot
Mal.
of people, Melanius. It's mostly just because the porch needs to be improved. So we have to wait until you.
Yeah.
We have to wait because we ship
that
people.
and the whole controversy with what was it, Pardo?
Oh yeah, that.
Pardo,
Yeah.
but Pardo got fired not because he was
He's-
a weird conservative dude. It's because he refused to do his fucking job at conventions. We brought you to a convention to talk to people. Are you not going to do that? No? Then that. Are you not going to submit your work on time? Are you not going to do any of that? Then no, you can fuck off.
There's a whole
Basically,
controversy
Pardo
with-
didn't do his job and got fired. Now he's doing
There is-
the normal thing you do when you get fired because of incompetence. You grift. Because let's be
Yeah.
honest, you can grift on the left or right. It just depends on how you frame it.
There is something regarding like someone, I think he was stalking him or something like that. Is
It's some stupid shit that
it's
nobody
some,
really
it's
cares
some weird,
about.
weird,
It's
weird
internet
stuff
drama.
that, yeah, it's just weird drama.
But yeah, Catalyst is doing mostly fine. The only thing they're fucking up is just following their Kickstarters, which is just them being greedy with the distributor. That's it.
And also people complaining about, of course, the current lore and how it's changing, and they don't like that.
I mean, I don't like
Wait-
it either, but that's
Oh
just
wait, you
because
don't like how
I kinda
Clan
tuned
Wolf
out.
keeps winning?
Yeah, I kind of
Well,
tuned out.
what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Like, this is called the Ill Clan era. Are you fucking high?
I don't care. I just don't care. I don't buy
I
I
just
thought it
want to
was-
see more dead clanners, and
I
I'm
thought it
going
was-
to get more dead clanners, and that I am happy for.
I just
thought it was-
I just zone out because I don't give a shit about clans. I don't care about clan Mary Sue Wolf bullshit, so I'm just gonna tune out.
I do
I'm
like
just-
that Clan Jade Falcon is now like 5 different Clan Jade Falcons, and they all hate each other.
Of course they do.
It is the most Clan Jade Falcon thing of all time.
Yeah, but at
And-
the end of the day, I don't give a shit. It's changing. It's more Mary Sue Wolf bullshit. Don't care. Skipping.
I would love though a scene where they head to the homeworlds and it's just these fucking dysgenic freaks just fighting in their
It's
battle
the
mechs.
homeworlds, they make contact, they see everything, they just cut contact immediately. Like, nope.
We're
Nope.
the pure ones.
Yep. They're like, fuck it. We're doing our splendid isolationism.
Let's see what else we have. Miniatures wise, Star Wars, they did kill off the X-Wing game.
Well, I mean,
'Cause
Star Wars is kind of in a fucking dire state anyway.
Because, you know, apparently just making X-Wings and arcs and droid starfighters and TIE fighters wasn't selling. Oh, I don't know, maybe there'd be a stuff from the Old Republic. Stuff from Knights of the Republic.
But it doesn't sell
Stuff
High
from Muse and
Republic
Long War.
books. You don't understand it. It doesn't sell High Republic books. And it doesn't have pride flags on it.
The other miniature game, I think it's Legions, or the one where yes, you're gonna have to paint the white paint of the armor. Good luck with that, motherfucker. Of your stormtroopers and clone troopers. That game is selling well.
I mean, in fairness, in minis gaming, naval combat stuff usually doesn't sell as well as the ground pounding stuff in general.
That's true.
It's sad, but true.
There's still though, if they just took the expanded universe,
Why
we already
would
have
they?
we
You
already
don't
have at
need that.
Empire at War. With Empire at War, we have a fuck ton of ships. You
Why
could
would
just
we
use
do that though when we could have the High Republic where nothing interesting fucking happens other than occasional
It's
pirates?
the fucking Chudjack meme of nothing ever happens.
Why can't we just do that? Why can't we have the anarchist murder pirates?
Well,
Because again, as Chudjack has said, nothing ever happens.
You don't understand. That doesn't sell us the real IP that we've burned to the fucking ground.
Moving on from Star Wars.
to
Yeah,
a
the
new
the
IP.
minis scene is fucking dire. Legion
Well,
is the only thing surviving.
there's a new IP, Trench Crusade.
Or as I call it, Warhammer 40k, but soulless.
It is
Or as I call it, Warhammer 40k, but actually Catholic.
and World War One. It's being developed. Basically, it's so you got these Christian zealots fighting heretics and demons in a World War One aesthetic.
The demons kind of kill any interest I have in the IP because they're
You-
literally just Warhammer 40k demons.
They're not.
Oh yeah, it
they're-
is.
No, they're.
I mean, they're not exactly, but
But-
like
They look
but
it's
so
very.
much
it
alike that
feels
I just
similar.
don't give a shit.
No.
Just don't
no.
give a shit.
But it is being developed by the guys who did Mordheim. The
That has
art
potential.
has been done by I believe it's Adrian Smith, who has done fantastic artwork.
Yeah, the
for
art's really
Warhammer.
good.
Adrian Smith does great work, and the arts look fine. It's just there's nothing for me to get interested in. Like, this is the problem that people have with Glorantha, but the difference is Glorantha has enough stupid shit in there that you can eventually find something to pull you. This is nothing.
Well, who knows? It's
it's all style, no substance.
They
really.
got $3 million in funding right off the bat.
Cool.
So
you know who also got a lot of money? Coyote and Crow. It depends on how they use it.
it will. At least they already have the miniatures.
If they're
the
smart enough to
STLs.
not own a company, like in the sense that if they're smart enough not to buy office space, that would help.
I don't think they have office space. I think that's good.
That is good. You don't want office space.
The only other thing about that is the people getting upset about the fact that just because it has Christian iconography, it's not your.
Oh yeah, their
Base
community
trad
looks like
path.
a dumpster fire.
The community is okay. A lot of people who are making very enthusiastic armies and it's very much they designed, especially now because even though they have miniatures, people make their own, so it's very much a hobbyist's hobby.
Yeah,
It's just that
I
the
think-
people coming in and saying, "Why can't we make the Aztecs demon worshippers?"
Because we're not.
Also,
That's not what this game is about.
There are such a thing as evil gods, you know.
Well, in this case, if it's
Let's
who knows
be
what
honest,
they're
if
going
you're
to do.
burning people alive and ripping their hearts out every day to fuel the sun, you're fucking evil. Let's be honest.
Well, there is also.
Well, what if it
religion.
does? What if the sun doesn't?
Yeah.
does actually need that?
What
Then
if-
are
yeah,
you-
what if
Why
they
are
are
you
getting
using
power?
Pascal's wager for something that's demonstrably untrue?
How do you know it's untrue?
I don't
Well,
know.
then
You
again,
think
the-
every
the-
other faith in the world would have eventually figured out you needed it.
Well, then again, the other side is busy burning people who think differently than them and putting them onto wheels and slamming them into the enemy.
Wouldn't you call
so-
that a sacrifice?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's
Yeah.
just there's
Plus-
nothing in there to appeal to me.
Plus, understand this: if we do get an Aztec army, that does mean that they will probably be riding monsters. I want like Jaguar warriors. I want the ability to use the Aztec death whistle as a status effect.
I don't want to see the Jaguar warriors because they will be furry.
No. I have a way to fix it, and it reminds me of something The problem is I'm basing it on, I think it's Keith Thompson who did it, where it's an Aztec warrior that's basically done as a skinwalker. And that was the take on the Jaguar warrior, where they gain the powers based on the skin of their opponent that they wear, the monster they slay. You can maybe do something like that. I don't know. There's just I think I need the RPG to come out and the setting to actually be interesting for me to give a shit. Right now, it's all style, no substance, just like Morkborg.
There's more, though. I also realized there was another miniature that came out, Heroescape.
They fucking re-released Heroescape.
They
ladies and
re-released
gentlemen.
Heroescape. There has been apparently a diehard community for this game, which is, I remember, it was hex based. You could build your own terrain.
Yes.
And it was people from all different dimensions. So you had World War II soldiers fighting with Valkyries against weird fleshy creatures, robots, ninjas, and I think cyborg cops.
Yeah, if you grew up in the early 2000s, you will remember these fucking commercials for this game.
Oh, yeah.
It's back, though.
It's fucking back, which is impressive to say the least.
It's about the right time to re-release it, actually, because of the whole 20-year window.
It's also that it's a genuinely, like, oh, it's a hex-based war game that has pre-painted models and shit. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heroescape's back.
Actually, no. They're not. If I checked, because it was in a fucking Barnes and Noble, it was not pre-painted.
It was not.
Oh, you get to
I mean,
paint them now.
it's colored plastic, but
Oh.
Ah, okay.
because you gotta understand, the people that were playing this are now adults, and they can now learn how to
afford
paint.
Yeah.
Which also, speaking of that, Army Painter came out with a new range of paints called Fanatic. Beautiful paints, very rich in color.
But yeah,
Nice.
for those curious, Heroescapes is part of the Clicks line of games. That's what you're thinking of. That's actually the game, by the way. That fun little lore fact. Adam, am not a big fan of minis gaming, specifically because of Heroescape. Mainly because the guys I gamed against were win at all cost people. I literally couldn't even do any damage to their units because they would literally use powers just to make sure that they took no damage. That's how fucking petty they were.
We call those people assholes.
Yep, and that's all I played. So guess what? I don't care for minis because of that.
But we do care about RPGs. And so, other things I think came out this year, there was Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Pathfinder 2nd Edition's a big thing to bring up because it has
Edition
been
remaster.
remastered.
Let's be specific. It's the remaster. There's also quite a few releases from other developers. Mongoose has released quite a bit for Traveler this year.
Yes, they did.
There were releases from Arc Dream regarding some new scenarios and new scenario compilations.
I forget, did God's Teeth come out this year?
God's Teeth did not come out this year. It came out last year.
Which is a fantastic, very dark, very interesting campaign for Delta Green.
Yeah, it's serious enough to where I would have to make it an 18+ stream if we covered it because it's the cycle of abuse.
To put it bluntly, they made a game. Their previous campaign release was Iconoclasts, which was set in 2016 and started you guys off as ISIS fighters. This is somehow more controversial than that.
Yeah.
Admittedly, those ISIS fighters all die terribly in the first session, and then you bring in your actual characters.
Oh no, you might actually be able to survive it, but that's not very likely.
I think what they said from the playtest group is that they had a group of guys rolling away with on the truck, and one of them had like an RPG, and he misfired, so it fell out in the truck bed, and they all blew up.
Yep, but yeah,
that seems surprisingly accurate.
But yeah, Pathfinder 2e Revised came out. It looks really darn good. The people who don't like Pathfinder 2, keep in mind that it's very different from the playtesting period. The game is very different from that. So I would actually recommend getting it now if you would like.
Dax, good pointing out, Cubicle 7 dropped a lot of stuff for Warhammer.
Yes, they did.
The Imperium Maledictum. Yes.
Imperium Maledictum. They dropped some stuff for, I believe, Age of Sigmar.
And Warhammer Fantasy.
For Fantasy, including a book on the dwarves, and I didn't realize this, they included these minor gods that, because there's the main gods, there's it's Grimnir, Valia, and
that actually reminds me. Let me see if, because I think there's some things that came out for the One Ring as well. Because I think the Moria book came out.
There was like a Moria book that came out, I think.
Yeah, let me look. I also know Alien released some stuff too. Free League's Alien has also released stuff.
Yeah, Free League also released a little bit for the Twilight 2000. They finally released the Black Madonna.
Yes, they did.
Just say the ancestor gods for the dwarves: Grimnir, Grungni, and Valia.
Here's something that I want to bring up. Free League announces the Elven expansion pack for the One Ring RPG and 5e.
Oh.
That's coming. That's going to come out. They announced it literally less than 2 weeks ago. Lord of the Rings role-playing for 5e now available on D&D Beyond if you're a big fan of that.
I'm not shocked that they released a version of it for 5e.
Unfortunately, Alien Romulus coming to Free League's Alien RPG. I have no fucking interest in that. There is also the first look at their second RPG. Yeah, a lot of stuff for Free League. It is, if you're a fan of Free League games, it is a great time to be a part of it.
I think you're eating
good. And yeah, building better worlds. Yeah, that's a great example. There's a lot of good shit for that.
I think even Palladium dropped some new stuff
Yes, they did.
for Rifts, which
So yeah,
I haven't done
People
that in a
still
while.
play Rifts.
2024 has a lot of stuff. Not all of it memorable, not all of it good, but quite a bit of it is pretty nice.
I do believe we did get some other news though. I believe Wenger Satanis decided to quit making RPGs.
Hallelujah.
He
Possibly because another game, which was made by a woman, Shadow Dark, sold more than his.
Yeah, Shadow Dark completely spanked his terrible games. He then, what actually happened was he proclaimed, I think it's just because he lost interest in making games, he proclaimed, I am done. But then what happened was he then retconned it because I guess what happened was people noticed he pretended to quit. It could have been completely performative. Oh, and what can you add to Rifts? Nothing really. It's just what happens is Kevin kind of adds a couple of rules, and that's kind of why he re-releases it every now and again.
Well, it's more the settings.
That too.
Because remember, they still haven't made a book, I believe, for France, which is run by blood druids.
But yeah, Shadow
And you know
Dark
what?
kicked. Shadow
They
Dark
could
completely
definitely,
destroyed Vanger Satanis' ass. I don't even know what he's made recently. I think he bought the IP from like 180's game, and it sold like crap. I know he's done Chalt still. Shadow Dark completely destroyed it. He called it quits. Then, out of spite, said, no, I'm not quitting, and now he's actually on VengerCon 4. The fourth
Oh.
VengerCon is coming next year. The third one happened this year, and it's just as much of
Also,
a dumpster fire as it
just
has been.
just
A little more
just
organized, let's be fair. I'll give him some credit. It's more organized than the last two.
also just released today, the second edition of Axe, which is a
Oh,
OSR
yeah.
hack. So they finally released that today, and it is pretty decent. I picked up the core and I've been looking through it, and it's good. If you like your classic Beck-Me stuff, it is definitely for you.
I feel like that covers most of it for. Oh, actually, one other thing for miniatures.
Oh, we should also finally mention the fucking Lunar book finally dropped.
Yes, it did. The Lunars finally
3 months
dropped.
late.
Praise the Red Goddess.
Praise the Red Goddess. We finally have more information on the lunar religion than we've really ever had before.
But
Which is very useful, depending on where you're playing in Glorantha.
But also, Bolt Action, I believe, has come out with its third edition. So if you are interested in World War II miniatures, go right ahead.
That's actually
You can-
kind of nice to
you
know. This
you
is
can literally play whatever army you want, from the U.S. Marines, the Japanese, to literally the Waffen SS.
Yeah, bolt action's
Hans?
kind of been a big thing for a long time, and it's really nice to see they finally have a third edition rulebook.
Yep. Flames of War has kind of petered out. It's now all Team Yankee from those guys. Disappointing, but there you go.
Yeah, this year's been pretty good if you like minis or if you like tabletopping in general. A lot of stuff has come out. Oh, there's also some garbage that came out. We've covered a couple of them. We will do that when we cover our retrospective.
Yep. Now
Mhm.
to the other group of gamers, video games.
Ah, yes, 2024. Oh
A
god.
lot of there was shit. I realized there was a lot of more community-based games. We had Pal World come out early this year.
Oh yeah. Speaking of news, Nintendo is basically suing them because their designs, in a lot of cases, look too close to Pokemon.
Yeah, we got
Nintendo
some
is
fantastic.
dragging their ass to court.
We got some fantastic indie games though, including some that are traditionally game related. We got.
Well, they might not actually be indie games. They might be technically made by a developer owned by a publisher. That's a big first-party game maker.
No, I mean not even like indie. I was saying like tabletop. Like we got Balatro for one thing, which has occupied way too much of my time.
Balatro, Helldivers 2, which
Helldivers 2, fantastic.
came out of nowhere.
Tried to destroy.
The
game is great, but Sony tried to destroy that fucking game.
A lot of Chinese games. The two that come to mind, Black Myth Wukong,
which completely smashed the shit out of its competition.
Hoya versus new gacha game, Zenless Zone Zero.
That game has been doing gangbusters among my friends.
Because of the anime women?
Partially because of the anime women, but partially because, ironically enough, they enjoy the story.
And I like this is the other. It's a gacha game that actually has a game.
Right, like the game, they're like, oh wow, there's actual gameplay in this one, and the characters are actually really good. So they were just like, oh, it works. There's also Honkai Star Rail, which did give us the Trash
And
Panda. So
and Genshin Impact, which is another one of their games. But it's just interesting that we're getting
Well,
more of the
Genshin's older than
Chinese
that.
market.
Genshin's older than that, but
Yeah.
it's kind of fun that
I
that
think
the
it's
thing.
due to the dearth of good shit from the West. I
I
think
would
that's
not
some
say
of
that.
it.
I think that the Chinese have weaponized the ultimate thing, which is waifus and husbandos.
That too.
And a lot of this is geared towards the mobile game. But
Yes.
I think everyone has realized, okay, yeah, there will be people that will spend a lot of money to get their waifu, but they want to have also a game with it.
Well, the
Yeah.
best ways to get people to still separate themselves from money is to have a thing called a game.
Yeah.
Because you could just do a cash grab scam. You could. It's really easy, but you don't have to.
Oh,
So speaking of shit games, though,
Oh god.
uh,
Oh god. There's so many.
first off, Dragon Age Vilgard. Hey, remember this game that apparently had
remember-
a
Wait,
very
before we cover
dark...
the shit, I do want to cover one good thing that I think came out this year. Dragon Quest III's remake. I need to bring this up because the Diopsid really fucking loves Dragon Quest, and it looks really good.
Oh, there's also the port of Red Dead Redemption to the PC.
That also looks
Finally,
pretty,
it's
pretty
taken
nice.
forever.
It's a shame
And-
But
Saints
they
Row 2
finally
will
did
never
it.
get it.
And also there is a Saints Row 2 on.
There's
I have it
Saints
on
Row 2
GOG.
on fucking PC.
Yeah, but it was never ported correctly. And the guy who was supposed to fix it died of cancer.
Oh.
Oh.
And then they
But-
completely threw away his work to make that crappy reboot.
But there's also a great game called Bloodborne. It is available on PC. It is not available for purchase on PC, but people have been able to play it on PC.
Yup. Now we can get to the rubbish. Let's start
So-
with Dragon Age, which killed
Veil-
itself.
Veil- which I was never a fan of Dragon Age.
I
I
heard
tried
Dragon
playing
Age 1 was
Inquisition.
really good. I then heard
The first
about
one was
Inquisition
quite good.
having controversy about some gay guy, and I didn't care.
Inquisition, like, okay, here's how it goes. First Dragon Age is very much in the style of the old Baldur's Gate, like, fantasy RPGs from BioWare. There's no voice acting for the main character. It's all text dialogue choices. All your companions have fully intricate stuff. There's a lot of personal stuff. The expansion pack Awakening was very good.
Okay.
They had there's a lot of interesting stuff in this world. It's kind of a new thing. Yeah, like, oh, there's a demon plague, whatever shit. But
Okay, so it's a new fantasy IP, which is something that hasn't been
Yeah.
done in a long fucking time. I can now understand a little bit.
yeah,
I'll
and
be
the
blunt.
decision-
This is not something I'm familiar with. I just know Veilguard
Right.
sucks, so this
and
is
like
really helpful. to know.
like they handle like dwarves are a lot like the Warhammer Fantasy dwarves in that they don't do magic. They do their own shit. But
elves are
Don't they also
assholes.
have the warrior
Elves are
race of blue
assholes.
dudes or whatever?
they do later. That's a Quinari. In the first game, you only meet one, and it's a very kind of like a peek into their culture. It's not very much. It's also mentioned that they have cannons and they don't have mages. So, little weird, but there you go.
And then the second game, from what
And then
I've
the
heard,
second game kind of like it finally makes the Quinari look like not just like big brown humans. Now they have horns. They have dark skin, like gray and black skin. They speak in a weird way. They have like their own culture, like this thing. They call themselves a Quinari.
didn't they
because
also
that's
try
their
to change how the game played
belief.
in the second game?
The game also played very differently in the second, and it was also incredibly rushed. The plot line of the second game is about some random asshole in the city, and it's just like, okay, I mean, I guess that was a different game, and it was like that, but it also they brought in the Mass Effect dialogue wheel, and that's when you kind of know it goes downhill from there for BioWare.
And then Inquisition, I only really remember because of the overhyped controversy of like some dude being gay in it or whatever.
Like they
I don't think
made
there
a
was
character from the first.
It was really
somewhat second
overhyped
game
because
would also
it got
be
brought
gay,
up a
which
lot.
is like, whatever. Who cares?
I
Well, no, it got
remember,
brought up
though,
because of Gamergate and shit like that. That's the
yeah,
only thing
I
heard
remember
about it.
there was also a transgender character, but it was done well.
I wouldn't
like-
know.
like-
I only heard
I wouldn't
about
know.
it.
I've never played Inquisition because
I-
Dragon Age 2 was
if I
such a
remember,
disappointment.
The issue, so it was maybe a female to male, and was in the command, was a soldier in Quinari Warband.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense for the
Yeah,
Quinari.
And
Like,
here's the thing: the Quinari apparently they've very much view gender associated with role. So
Yeah.
having somebody be a soldier, they're a man. They're just automatically a man.
Exactly. They talk a bit about this in 2 from what I played of 2. I never completed it, but I did have like the conversations with the Arashok and poked around some stuff. The Quinari are in 2 at least were a very interesting culture. Though I don't know what they fucking did to them in the later 2 games, and I'm assuming nothing good. Because they do point them out as that they're a collectivistic culture with a very different ethical framework than what you're used to in like Ferelden or in like anywhere in that sort of continent area.
Okay, and their understanding of how gender is based on roles, which hey,
Yes,
okay.
they
And
have a role-based caste society, basically.
And that brings us to Veilguard, which I think for a
you,
lot of people,
let's be blunt. If you saw how bad Andromeda was, what the fuck were you expecting with this game?
it's not
It's not like
the thing that's it's soft. I would argue it
right.
feels soft. It looks soft.
All right, like that's the thing. Like Andromeda, you can very least say Andromeda got the gameplay design guys from Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, which was a fantastic mode that is dead now, and I feel bad about that because it was really fun. You can feel it in how the combat moves. It's much smoother than in the previous 3. It flows better. The actual story writing for it is because they decided to give that studio the entire game. And you can kind of guess how that went. That's why Andromeda was a fucking mess.
Yep, and from what I understand of Veilguard, it is. I've actually seen dialogue from it. It is.
It's cringe.
It's cringe.
You
It's
should
cringe.
just have TikTok write it. It would do the same thing.
It's not like you could say like if the gameplay at least was good, but
And
it's
it's
not.
mediocre.
It's mid. It's mid at best.
And so then you really boil down to the RPG of the dialogue, and
the dialogue's not good.
It's
also
the
one of my
dialogue
favorites.
feels modern.
My favorites is that the race of big horned warrior monster men also are the people that invented non-binary, even though that's not how their culture worked. It should have been a human.
Well, no,
it should have been a human.
Here's the thing. Apparently, and I guess the character is like half Quinari, half dragon. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. Just
they
go
don't
with
care.
me.
They don't give a shit. By the way, the place that you gave a shit about in the first game got blown up.
Well, no, struggling with identity. There is apparently a Quinari word for non-binary, and this character does not go with it.
Well, no, because you don't understand that the person who wrote it needed to give their struggle session to you personally so that you can feel bad for them. Because the writer basically just wanted to enact their issues.
Like I believe, like in Inquisition, there is a character who is gay. He does not say he is gay. He says, "I prefer the company of men."
Yes.
There's a way you write that makes it sound more authentic using this modern.
If you're writing fantasy, you don't want to write like you're doing performative comedy in a failing nightclub. You don't want to write like you're about to get fired off of Twitter. Dragon Age Veilguard, based on real journalism, published leaks have been faking sales. Real sales are likely a fraction of what EA has claimed to save face. Oh my, Squirrel Killer. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh
but speaking of other game failures, Concord, the game that lasted 2 weeks and
the hero shooter that was 3 years too late for the fad and didn't have distinct enough character designs to make it.
Oh, I can go into so many people have already talked about it, but in short, Firewalk Studios was made by former Bungie people. They wanted to make an Overwatch clone right when it came out and was popular. And they pissed away all the money because they had the brain dead idea of focusing on story in a looter shooter, in a hero shooter fucking thing.
Yeah, well, that's like a Bungie play.
Don't forget the massive, horrendous amounts of money Sony gave them, $400 million, and the design of the characters and the ethos of the game was surrounded in toxic positivity, created by the pronoun professor.
Oh, don't forget that they were on secret level. They thought the game would be such a success that they were teasing new character designs on secret level.
I kind of hope that when they get the metrics for the results, like the Concord section, it's the only episode that like completely plunges. Because
I mean,
at its
I would-
peak, it
I
had
would
less
love-
players. At its peak, it had less players than like an RPG from 12 years ago, like an MMO from
Steam-
12 years ago.
yeah. Steam
Another
failed for
It
not
was
kind
like
to it.
5,000 people.
another failure.
It made
Suicide
1
Squad.
million. It made 1
Suicide
million.
Squad killed the Justice League. Also a failure. Not a shock that it was a failure because the marketing was bad.
The marketing was bad, and being the asshole villain murdering people, that was relevant in 2007.
Oh, it doesn't help
It's
that
your
the
fault,
voice
rich
actor-
man. Rich man, you ruined my life. And then Kevin Conroy's like, "This is the last role I'll ever have, as you kill me because I'm a bad guy."
Technically, it wasn't. He
It
apparently
wasn't him.
had.
It wasn't actually Batman. Also, that was the other thing. There's all fakes.
It's the last role of Kevin Conroy.
No,
though.
no, no.
It doesn't
He
matter.
he had other roles in other, like I think it was another Justice League thing for an animated movie.
It was,
was
but
so-
at the time, it was the last audio of him before he died. That's
And-
like one of the worst things you could do.
And they
And
thought
it
it would
was
be a
just-
success. They had
it's
planned
your
seasons
fault,
and a
Batman.
storyline behind it. And it all fucking fell apart because,
It's
as
your
it
fault,
turns out,
Batman.
the gameplay loop is not rewarding enough to stick through, and everybody got mad about the fact that you're shooting, the beloved Arkham Batman in the face.
On top of that, the people doing it are legitimate fucking scum. They're serial killers. They're murderers. They're actual fucking terrorists.
You couldn't have gone with, I don't know, Deathstroke instead. Someone actually not
no,
the
you don't even
worst.
need to do
I'm
that.
actually
Here's what you
been
do.
surprised they
You
didn't
give
give that.
respect to the dude. Like, I'm sorry it had to go this way, Bruce.
Or
Bang.
actually, no. You just go full on. Just bring Professor Pig, Victor Zat, or not Victor. That's Victor.
Oh, come
that's
on,
right.
no. The
Bring
pig is
Zaz.
fucking... Like, none of them are actually
Oh, no.
good, though, because they have to fight the actual Justice League, so you're kind of limited on the villains you can take.
Oh no!
And they still somehow included Harley Quinn.
Speaking of disaster, well, I can complain about that. But speaking of disaster, there were Concord magic cards that were in the works.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
God damn it, Sony! What the fuck is wrong with you?
And I guess as people are bringing up, Dustborn, the legitimate
The game that
indie
wasn't
game,
the game,
funded
and
by partially by, I believe,
the Norwegian government.
Yes.
Yes.
Starring a
The Norwegian game
a
company scam.
black woman, the non-binary British partner, vitiligo fat Muslim woman, and a Mexican.
And it was terrible, and we can just move on.
Yes, it was terrible.
It was just, hey, we have all of these peoples. You gotta care because they
and
exist.
you have a power to cancel people as part of
I
the
do
power set for this RPG. Okay, whatever. Nobody that's not terminally online gave a shit about this game.
I do
and
think
neither
it is
should you.
very
I'm
interesting
terminally
look
online
at-
and I didn't care
at-
about this game.
I do think it's a very interesting look at Norwegians' understanding of America.
And how they fucking don't at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
Much like I don't know much about their culture.
Well, I
They
know
live-
this about
I
Norway.
as- I assume
they make
they- I
death
as-
metal and burn down churches, or they did
Yes.
at least back in the 90s.
And they run on oil, and I presume
They run their socialist
live
government
in
on
their
oil.
winter forests.
They run their
you know.
socialist government on oil, and we're historically one of
And
the
they-
poorest nations in Europe for a long fucking time.
And also, they are, of course, pining for the fjords.
Weren't they the Vikings? Well,
Yes, but we're not going to
They
talk
were one
about
of
that.
several countries
I'm making
that
a
had
fucking
Vikings.
Monty Python reference, you fucking uneducated swine. Anyway.
anyway,
Technically,
another
knowing
shit
Monty
movie.
Python makes you uneducated. Actually, it makes you your midwit.
This is a fucking actual flying circus. This isn't the movies. You fucking...
No. Even
Anyway.
referencing flying circus makes you a midwit. It actually
I
drags you
am
down.
going to fucking punch you.
Everyone
Well,
knows that
this-
you're
what
supposed to
about-
reference
what is
faulty
an X?
towers.
There you go.
This is
Yeah.
the next joke.
Well, no. If you know faulty, you don't mention faulty towers.
True.
Don't mention faulty towers.
Alright,
Don't mention that show.
All right.
But
what else? Was there anything decent in movies that released this year? I know.
Movies.
There's a lot. There's
there-
actually more than you think.
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part
2 is
2.
one. There's
Transformers 1.
Transformers
which
1 is
you
really good.
all should see. It's actually very good. Fuck the advertisers. I hope they burn in hell.
The advertisement for the movie is one of the worst that you can see, but it's actually a lot better than you'd think.
And probably the best film I've seen all year, Deadpool and Wolverine.
I didn't watch it specifically
It
because
was-
I
it
don't
was
want to
good.
give Marvel money.
It was good.
It was really good. It's a love letter to the 20th Century Fox people.
Oh yes.
Yes
yeah.
and no. I from what I understand, it's like even more meta referencey.
Well,
It is
of course
meta. It is meta. It
because
is a
has
meta
to be.
reference. It is a meta reference, but it's very. It very
It's a
much
reference
is
to- it's like
paying
a send-off.
homage to.
I honestly expect
The
that if you
films that
rewatch
without-
it wouldn't be as good as the first two.
It's better, I would say, than the second. I would still
You
say I would
that,
put it
but
on par
I
with
bet
first.
if you watched it a year from now, you'd like it less than you think.
No, I have to say it has one of the best fight scenes I've seen in a long time.
Speaking of
Look, it's
cursed, you know what I
entirely
have
in a
to say?
minivan.
You know what I have to say? There's one complaint I
Yes.
have for the film, but there is one movie that people kind of sleep on. Fuck me. It's Wicked. Wicked's actually a pretty damn good movie too, if you like that sort of shit.
If you're a fan of musicals, you'll like it.
Yeah.
I
Is
guess
kinda what you're
so.
saying.
The only
Apparently,
complaint I'll give is that they really are trying to nickel and dime you. They want them shekels because it should have been one movie, and they're doing a Hobbit
yeah.
where it's two.
Ah,
I-
that's the worst.
It's unfortunate because the actress is an annoying bint. She's crazy, but she does an excellent performance in it.
they look like the Greys, like in their interviews. They look like the Thin Man from XCOM.
But right.
Speaking of
go
movies,
see
though,
Deadpool and Wolverine if you haven't yet already. It's
I also
I do
heartily
remember- I do-
recommend Sonic 3.
Sonic
yeah.
3 I've heard is pretty good.
It's
I
not
remember,
just
though-
pretty good. It's the best of the three. It
There-
does Sonic Adventure 2. The only complaint you could say is that there's too much Jim Carrey, but that's not necessarily a problem.
Like, yeah, okay.
Also,
if
think
you're-
about it
if
like
you
this:
Jim
you have
Carrey as
John Wick
Eggman.
if he was a hedgehog.
Yeah, like if you have Jim
Dude,
Carrey.
Oh,
He actually has a gun.
wait. Oh, they brought
They
the Shadow the Hedgehog
Shadow
game
has a
reference.
gun. Shadow
Shadow
has a
has
gun.
a fucking gun.
Also, it's likely. It's likely. I'm not going to spoil anything else, but I will say my prediction if they make a Sonic 4 is the one they're most likely going to do is they're going to use Black Doom, the alien from Shadow the Hedgehog, as the next.
Oh
villain.
no.
The movie's also really good at actually having the characters play off each other. In particular, Knuckles and Tails play off really well because Knuckles kind of treats him like a little brother.
Although you do know what this means.
It's
they're
one of the
gonna do
better
a s-
takes on the character of Knuckles that you'll see in a film.
If they're gonna do a Sonic 6, they're gonna have to do Sonic 2006.
Oh no.
You're joking, but they actually referenced that because I think Knuckles actually mentions he gets like a power from Iblis. He got a power from Iblis after beating him up.
Oh no.
They actually
God.
reference a lot of shit that you wouldn't be
No,
like. It's a
dude.
big love letter. They even have Metal Sonic in it.
Wow.
What?
Oh, I wonder if they
Okay.
throw in the comics.
Um,
Oh, they can't. Yeah.
the things that they did change,
The IP.
I can't really spoil much. I'll just say that instead of the 50 years ago looking like the 1950s, Maria looks like a 70s flower child instead, because
Oh.
the change in timeline.
Yeah.
The
I do
human
remember-
characters are still there, but they're not as prevalent as they were in the first two.
I do remember. I think it was like September. There was like this Western movie that was coming out, and it was supposed to be like a few months later. You'd see the sequel, and that just bombed.
But
Oh,
yeah,
the Kevin Costner
2024 has a
Yes,
lot
that
of
was it.
crap, but there's also a lot of good movies. There's not a lot, but there's enough
Like-
good movies that I actually would rate that this year is slightly better than 2023 was in terms of what was available.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, whoever the hell thought that a Kevin Costner 4-parter was going to sell was fucking stupid.
Oh God.
Wasn't
And I think
just
the
realized,
reason
wasn't
why
there
that it
another
even came out was it was self-funded, I think.
wasn't there another big budget Western in like the 80s that it killed the auteur filmmaker?
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, that was it.
Heaven's Gate. It cost
Yeah.
basically like 50 million, which was like 300 million at the time.
And I remember it actually killed a horse. There
It
is
not
a
only
scene
killed a
where
horse, but it
where you
killed the
can see
company
the horse
that-
die.
No, it also killed the company. It killed United Artists.
Though on the
2024
on the
does also have a whole hell of a lot of the worst films ever made, though. Oh God, they do. Because let's count the ways. Madam Web is technically a 2024 movie, so
You're
that's in
right.
there.
That is.
Oh my
Oh God.
There's so many bad movies.
Oh wait, right. Do you want to know what's even funnier? Craven the Hunter just dropped last week, and
Yeah.
it's even worse.
It's somehow
no.
worse.
The funniest thing is that it's somehow worse despite going all in on the gore aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like they go full for the R on that one because fuck it.
And it failed. Deservedly.
failed. Oh God, it's terrible.
Oh, don't
see
forget.
what I-
Don't forget that Francis Ford Coppola released his magnum opus, Megalopolis, this year.
Which
I didn't
but
There was Godzilla. There was
horrible
Godzilla.
hold
Godzilla
on,
and Kong's movie.
hold on. I will say this about Metropolis. In about
Megalopolis.
30
It's called
fucking-
Megalopolis.
Fuck. In about 30 years, Megalopolis will be considered a fucking masterpiece by
No, it won't.
auteur filmmakers.
Oh
No, it
wait,
goddamn
wait! I
won't.
realized.
I've
I
actually
realized-
seen how the film. The only thing on there is Shia LaBeouf eating out the old actress. That's the only thing of interest in that movie.
No, like the symbolism.
There is no symbolism. It's a confused morass of shit.
You know what
It's
I
a
realized?
boring-
Also
It is like
came out.
getting. It is like getting a fucking proctology exam, but you're on like Xanny or something, so you don't feel anything. There's nothing happening.
I'm scrolling through Wikipedia on this. We got Rebel Moon Part 2, The Grain.
Oh God!
Oh right.
I forgot that was a
hell.
2024
We got
film.
and YouTube. I can say this because this is the title: The American Society of Magical Negroes.
That one's
That-
terrible.
That was if that
I
had been
forgot
a
about it.
shitpost movie, I would have been like totally down for it.
We have
where there-
Argyle. That's
was
one of
not
the
that.
worst spy fit thrillers ever made. Argyle.
Yep, that piece of shit.
Oh God, what we have the movie I hate the most. It's not Alien Romulus. Don't worry, it's not that one. Gladiator 2 is the film I think I hate the most.
We had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I haven't seen Gladiator 2. How bad did fucking Ridley Scott fuck it up this time?
Okay, so you know Gladiator 1?
Right.
Replace Maximus with a boring plank of wood that has a revenge arc that is not earned. Replace
Okay.
Commodus with two. That's how they act. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
The emperors are terrible. Cut Maximus in half and give the other half of Maximus, the interesting part of him, to Pedro Pascal.
Okay.
And both of their roles have nothing to do with each other. Gracchus is still around, and his purpose is to be a background character until he dies.
Okay.
And Denzel Washington plays a black man who's angry at America for enslaving him. I mean, he plays Macromus, who is angry that Marcus Aurelius enslaved him. And therefore he's Thomas Jefferson, and we're going to cry about slavery. And he's also plays the Commodus role at the end. Also include more really bad animal CGI that makes Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes look good.
Oh.
Like the baboon CGI is fucking terrible.
Question though. Was the fucking promised water fight in the Coliseum any good? Was that
No.
scene at least good?
No.
Oh.
The CGI sharks actually ruined it. And
They
there was
put
nothing
fucking
to it.
sharks in there. What?
Yeah,
the
they put CGI sharks in it.
Oh my
Did they-
god!
Did they put? They should have put a hippo in there.
If they put a hippo in there, I would have been like, okay.
They wouldn't have used. They actually had a real tiger in a shot because it was from Gladiator 1. It was a Gladiator 1 reference. You know, under the ground where it would have been drowned by the water. But you know, the tiger was there. It was a real tiger, but he's only there for like 2 seconds because we're too busy
God
having
damn it.
CGI baboons.
Oh, I didn't
There's
realize,
a real monkey. They have. Here's the thing I hate most about this film. I can complain about this movie so much. Do you want to know the twin emperors are Geta and Caracalla? You know, the twins, the two brothers who are so paranoid at each other and hated each other so much
And
that they
fucking
could never
murdered
be
each
seen
other.
with each other.
Yeah.
No,
one
they didn't
fucking
murder each other.
the other.
Caracalla
Didn't
murdered him.
Yeah, I
murdered
was gonna
Geta.
say Caracalla murdered Geta, right?
He cold-bloodedly murdered Geta under truce, under a flag of truce, in his own mother's house. He murdered his younger brother, and his corpse fell into the arms of his own mother. And you know, here's the fucked up thing about Caracalla. Do you want to know why he did it? He didn't even want to be emperor. He actually had no fucking interest in being emperor. He did it specifically so Geta wouldn't kill him. And then immediately afterwards, he killed 20,000 of his followers, burned Rome in some parts, and then left just to go to war. He had no fucking interest in running the empire. And you could have done something really cool with that dynamic, but they don't. They play Ezra Miller in the middle of a bath salt binge right before he's about to commit a crime. That's how annoying they are.
They got footage of him in Hawaii
Wait, was the Flash movie this year or last year?
Last year.
Okay.
I fucking hate Gladiator 2. It is just Gladiator 1. There is no soul. There is no pathos. The Dream of Rome thing that Maximus did, they don't even do that. It's just, I fucking hate Rome. My wife was a soldier who got shot by Pedro Pascal ordering a soldier to kill her. So it's not even like she was innocent. It wasn't... If you're going to do this beat, what you would have had to happen is the city rebels. Like, he is in the city in North Africa, and it rebels against the Empire, and the general's sent to put it down, and she's killed in the crossfire, tragically, even though she wasn't a part of it. That would have been how you actually do, like, a beat. This is how dumb Ridley Scott is as a person. He is so incapable of making a movie that even when copying his own homework, he forgot how to fucking make his own homework. It is horrendously bad. It is 30 minutes shorter. It feels 50 minutes longer, and there's nothing of value in that fucking piece of shit of a film.
I am so mad that they fucked up the money scene. Is the goddamn water fight in the that's something they did.
They
And
did,
you
and they
fucked it
fucked it. It's boring because you know what Maximus does, like how he rallies the gladiators and makes them believe and remember that they were Roman once. Yeah, Lucius doesn't ever do that. He just kind of fights, and then they join him, and they're like, "We're friends with you now," because fuck developing characters. The only character that's actually good is Denzel Washington's character, and by good I mean the least bad.
I do want. I'm looking through.
I agree with Jim.
Yeah.
I think Ridley Scott should stop making movies. He should stop making. He should stop producing. He should just fucking desist.
He should stop. Just stop.
Because he's made Romulus, which is shit. He's being consulted for Alien Earth, which is gonna be shit. He made this piece of shit.
But you know what wasn't shit? Furiosa.
Furiosa was fine. The problem is that no one cares about it because she's not Mad Max. It's a Mad Max movie without Mad Max.
The Substance is a really good film. Late Night with the Devil actually came out this year.
There's a lot of stinkers, and we haven't even covered all of them. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones that came out.
I'm looking.
Mufasa came out, and that's a piece of shit.
Mufasa came out. There was a Reagan biopic.
I don't know if I'd call that a good movie, unless it includes him getting shot.
There's so many bad movies that I'm forgetting, because there's so many this year. Oh, God. Didn't Little Mermaid come out this year?
No.
Oh, Joker 2.
Joker 2.
That's the worst movie. I don't hate it as much as Gladiator 2.
Oh,
but it is the worst movie that came out this year.
I would not say it's the worst movie that came out this year. Apparently
The People's Joker came out this year as well.
Yes, that is a really wild movie. I saw clips of that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna be blunt. I think Joker 2 might be the worst movie. What's your worst movie that came out this year?
Honestly, I've only seen like one movie this year in theaters. Well, two actually.
Fair enough. I will say actually the best one that I saw this year was the full cut of Caligula.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they came out. They found like 90 minutes of footage. They tried to redo it and make it correct, and it really is a good film. It's not that the schlocky. I mean, they cut out the porn. It's not this.
Why would you cut out the porn?
Because it wasn't supposed to be in there. It wasn't supposed to be in there.
Well,
it was not. It was a serious film about. Yeah, no. It was a serious film that was supposed to be, graphic and having, the sex and violence. What it wasn't supposed to have were scenes of lesbians just
Why would
fucking
you
randomly.
remove the lesbian?
So what you're saying
Because
is
it just didn't make sense. They do have sex scenes. You do see Helen Mirren's tits. You know, they still have it.
I feel robbed though. Like
They have the head chopping scenes. They think they still have the penis cake. They have him sodomizing a guy
you know what they should have done?
with his fist.
They should have shown Caligula after Gladiator 2 like a back-to-back feature.
a back-to-back feature, and which one is more offensive to you?
They still have Tiberius's Grotto of Nymphomaniacs.
I would probably say the Caligula movie's better. Just like not even an argument.
Well, Caligula's an actual artistic movie. Like there's some
is.
fucking impressive set design in that bitch.
Oh, also, what came out? Lord of the Rings: War of the Rememberberries.
Oh, I forgot that was a movie.
War of the Mid.
Yeah, War of the
War of the
Mid.
Terrible. War of the Mid. Yeah.
No, I would say it's bad. I would actually argue.
I wouldn't say it's bad.
I would. Mid. I've looked at the animation, and it is very janky at points because they had 60 companies fucking animate it, and there are points where it just gives up. It is bad fan fiction. The only reason that you're trying to give this like a fucking pass is because there's another thing that came out involving the property that's way worse.
Yeah.
Every aspect of War of the Rohirrim is pretty bad because let's go through it bit by bit. Instead of the main character being Helm or Hamas or you know Hama or
Hamas.
Yeah,
Hamas was in there.
Hama, Haleth, or Freylef. Like instead of those guys being the main characters, we have Hera, which doesn't even sound like a real fucking Rohirrim name. Yes, Hera technically can be because of the enunciations. It can be Anglo-Saxon, but it's wrong. No, I want to go in this. This is my thing. This is my big thing.
Okay.
So you got a main character in the form of Hera who is basically, she's at least treated in the feminine role somewhat. But the problem is, A, she's the one that kills Wolf, which is bullshit. Freylef kills Wolf. And B, she's responsible for Helm killing himself because she runs into orcs. Oh, also the Watcher in the Water's in there, and it's terrible. Sorry, I just wanted to complain about War of the Rohirrim because I don't want to give it a pass. It is bad fan fiction that is okayed because the daughter of the writer of Lord of the Rings wanted her on it so that she can self-insert herself as Hera. It's basically just bad self-insert fanfic. Like if you've ever read The 10th Walker, like if you ever read any 10th Walker fan fictions, it's kind of that.
You read that one book that a Russian guy wrote.
Only
about
instead of fucking Legolas,
guys.
Instead of wanting to pork Orlando Bloom, she's porking a mid-50s lesbian as a shield maiden. Because she will take no man, and she goes on a giant eagle to go talk to Nick Gandalf to form the Ring Vengers.
No, because obviously they will all die. It's the Suicide Fellowship.
Sorry about that. It's just I don't like War of the Rohirrim. It is. I see it in the same way as Castlevania and He-Man, or Star Wars Visions, where they hire Japanese people to hide the fact that they're still writing things that should get them out of business. Like here's our crappy entertainment writing, disguised with anime. I'm wearing the skin suit of an anime. You'll like me, right? You disgusting plebeians. All right.
How the hell did you not like the Castlevania series?
Because it turns to shit after season 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
I have to point that out because what they do is I've seen how this works. I call it the skin suit approach. I call it the bacteriophage approach, where they disguise themselves like a good show. And then when they get you, they're like, okay, now it's time to insert our garbage. Here's our garbage. What, you don't like it? You're evil. Eat our garbage. Why am I going out of business? I don't understand.
Because like the first season was great.
No, like I'm not shitting on. I shit on it specifically because the later seasons do the same thing that say He-Man did.
I don't know why anyone expected He-Man to be good.
Because they hired anime to hide the fact that it was going to be written by Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Before we go on to, we should go on to the TV shows. I do want to point out, Robert Eggers, the guy who did The Lighthouse, is releasing a remake of Nosferatu.
Oh yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's coming out in a few days.
That's going to be good.
I feel like it will. But onto then the other part of visual media, the TV shows, or in this case, the streaming shows.
Oh,
And I'm going
God.
to run through a list of everything that got canceled by this year. Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Lower Decks, an actually good show.
Debatable.
Halo, it is.
It's Rick and Morty slop. I debate that.
Maybe the first few episodes, but
It is.
it really came into its
Very
own.
debatable.
The Halo show, if everyone remembers that,
Violently dog shit.
that is dead.
Thank fuck.
Bad Batch is over. Acolyte.
Wait, Bad Batch? I forget. What's that show again? I don't remember that one at all.
Nobody cares. It's the
That's the one. That's the one about the
but,
clones.
But clones, yeah.
There's the Acolyte, the series with
the worst thing that was made for TV, I think.
With the Matrix and lesbian witches.
The Power of Nothing.
All brought to you by Harvey Weinstein's secretary.
Don't forget how it destroyed Darth Plagueis. They brought him back. Remember Darth Plagueis? He's there. He's hiding in the cuck cave, staring at a pulley dog, wanting to get fucked by Manny Jacinto.
Yeah. And then now there is Skeleton Crew, which is just Goonies in space.
It is just. Have you seen Goonies? Every plot beat that you can think of from the Goonies and Treasure Island are there. There's only one twist. It is completely soulless.
There is, though, I believe next year coming out Andor. I really hope it's good. I'm
not predicting anything good because here's my experience with anything that Disney and Lucasfilm have done in its past 10 years. The moment something is seen as good, the losers that are in the company will try to associate themselves with the successes that are accidental completely. So what'll happen is they'll drag it down through their ineptitude.
That could be, but
that's my prediction.
If you have the time and the means, watch Andor season 1. It's a very well-acted show.
I would recommend it in the sense that just try to find it in interesting ways in the dumpster. I don't think you should reward people who actively hate you and want you dead.
Oh, I didn't reward them.
Thank goodness.
Though I did reward the Fallout show.
I think that one's mediocre, specifically because the last episode kind of turned me off.
It's not awful. It's not.
A dude blows up California because he got cuckolded. That's pretty fucking terrible.
That is probably how California will end.
That's amazing, though. Like that's exactly how it should be.
A man was cucked to death and took Los Angeles with him, essentially.
They do have the aesthetics down, and it does look like Fallout. I think the issue is this. A lot of fans, especially those that really love Fallout New Vegas, they love the fact that it's not a post-apocalypse.
Well, no, it's also if you like the lore.
Post-apocalypse.
Well, no, if you also like the lore, you'll also note that this show doesn't give a shit. And
yeah,
they actually got the layout of Shady Sands correct though, which I'm kind of impressed by.
They've got stuff correct.
That's skin suit. That's skin suiting. That's not that hard to do.
I hope it does good because it seems enjoyable.
I feel like it's
just
going to retread. Here's my prediction: it is going to retread Fallout 1 because they've nuked California back to nothing specifically. And they've also nuked I predict what they're going to do is they're just going to, because this is Bethesda and they want to own it, they want to own their own crappy version of it, they're just going to recycle the entire plot of Fallout 1.
Which they recycled for Fallout 3.
Of course they will.
But that's the...
I will say that the show is a 6 out of 10, which is an 8 out of 10 in modern entertainment.
Yeah, the thing is that Bethesda is focusing on this as it's a post-apocalyptic setting, and I do think that people really want that post-apocalyptic setting, as seen in the Hearts of Iron mod for Fallout, which does develop
Old World
societies.
Blues is
amazing. There is a market for that, and
there is, and they're gonna fuck it up because it's Bethesda. They have the anti-Midas touch. That's my prediction. I am a cynic when it comes to most entertainment and IP, because after a point, why even pretend to be fucking excited? Let it surprise you. If it turns out to be good, nice. Because it's too often that you're like, oh, this thing's great, Mandalorian, oh, goody, it's a God.
Let's see what else show. There was the Penguin
The
show, which I
Penguin is
heard
one
was
of the
good.
few bright spots in TV shows you could watch, and it was based
But then,
on Batman,
but
the
then earlier
Batman
this
movie.
year was Doctor Who, the gay black man crying show.
Oh yeah, I remember infamously the time the doctor cried while I stood on a landmine for 40 minutes. That was the peak cinema right there. You saw a guy who couldn't speak English correctly. You know, coming from a guy who can't speak English correctly, I'm making fun of this man. Uh, he's trying to do Scottish when he has his Rwandan accent slips through, and it's really weird. And he's crying on the landmine for 40 minutes. And it is one entire episode where it's like, fuck the Anglican faith, fuck the Anglican faith, fuck the Anglican faith. That episode was Kino. I rate that on par with some of the greatest works that was done by John Pertwee. I like that right there is peak cinema, right there. Just just like how they brought back that one villain, the Martian, the Egyptian entity of death. That was a great pick, and he's coming back for this Christmas, and it's gonna be fucking terrible. Doctor Who is the lamest and gayest and deadest IP I've ever seen. And this is actually comparing it to the show that had a dude whose entire thing was he slammed ass no matter what. Captain Jack. There's a dude who already did that. And the Doctor was a woman, and it's making those Doctor arcs look good, including the Eternal Child. God damn it. It's really impressive to make a Doctor Who show this terrible. I'm sorry, Shurigawa, but you were given some of the worst things humanly possible to try to act, and it's a testament. The best part is these are all the heavy hitters from the remake of the show, ruining their own fucking rep. It's amazing.
Don't forget also, this
I'm
was
not
only
even a
the
huge
last
Who
year.
fan, but if I'm able to make fun of you for fucking this up, that's a testament to your incompetence.
But no, I believe they said that people who were disabled were evil.
Oh yeah. They said that in one of the specials. They also had an entire episode which fetishized a transsexual girl. That was creepy. That made my skin crawl. These were actually technically, because here's the best part about Shurigawa's Doctor. He is technically a spin-off of the actual 14th Doctor because they split in half.
Yeah, he's the 15th. The 14th showed up in one episode.
And he literally looks
then
like the most
off.
famous version of him. He literally looks exactly the same as the actual version that's the most popular one in America. By the way, Doctor Who is so good that Disney is funding it, and they're only funding this one more season, which means that we might actually see the death of Doctor Who. And honestly, it fucking deserves it. At this point, it fucking deserves it. And I think every person. Oh, by the way, the current Christmas special is Moffat's last attempt at making a show from Doctor Who. So get to watch a person who really knew how to make something. I just realized I can reference Gladiator for this. I can make fun of Doctor Who referencing Gladiator. Remember when Commodus got that old guy to come back as the champion Gladiator? That's what they're doing. They're getting an over-the-hill loser to like, hey, remember the glory that we didn't win? Or in this case, remember the glory that we caused but we fucking ruined? That's what we're doing. But that's my thoughts on Doctor Who. It's dead and gay, and it's going to stay dead and gay. It is actually doing so bad they have to hide how bad it's doing.
And yeah, the streaming wars continue as
the streaming wars are coming to a
way.
conclusion, as so many of them are going out of business.
And instead, I would recommend watching stuff online, not just our stuff, but other shows. There's The Amazing Digital Circus. There's this series called Crash, if you're a fan of Red vs. Blue. There is a lot of stuff that you can watch and spend your time on that instead of paying
I mean,
for it.
fuck's sake, the best thing that White Wolf has okayed was Alpha Abuse's Hunter, the parenting, even though I think it's kind of gone out of fucking psycho wackiness.
Oh, like his previous series that he decided, we're ending it because Games Workshop might cancel us.
He just didn't want to do it anymore. As for
Yeah.
his new Hunter the Parenting stuff, it's unfocused and it's just mostly screaming. I don't really like his new stuff. The first 3 episodes are pretty solid, though. Oh, there is one more thing that we have to bring up since this is the television section.
Actually, yeah, what podcasts have you guys actually been listening to that are game related?
Before we do, there's one more TV thing we have to. You can't escape it.
Oh.
Rings of Power season 2.
Oh, right, that was this year.
Yes,
I
it was.
did not watch it. Friend of mine says it. He's okay with it. He's a lot more tolerant though with
He's okay with it.
these shows. With
Adam,
a lot
let's
of
just
content.
admit the fact that you were a gigantic fucking nerd.
I'm not even going to
And-
argue on it from a lore point of view. I can argue that the Rings of Power season 2 is actually worse than season 1 just based on what happens in the show. Not even going to connect it to lore. I don't even connect it to lore when I make fun of it. Not always. So let's go
That's
through
a fucking
bit by
lie.
bit by bootstrap. Part 1. The entire
Oh,
Rune
God.
plot line should be just completely fucking cut out. It has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. You can completely cut the Hobbit, the Harfoot plot line, and nothing changes. And you could have used that time to instead actually develop characterization. Issue 2. Characters have completely 180'd their personalities compared to their Season 1 iterations, and they have actually forgotten things they have set up in Season 1. They set up a coup in the Dwarven Kingdoms in Season 1, which they completely walk back on and instead make the previous king, Durin the Third, look like a crazy greedy asshole because he got the ring. Translation, they ripped off the Hobbit part where Thorin lost his mind. That's literally the entire arc. They have made Celebrimbor basically do things because Sauron told him to. And at one point, he legitimately makes Sauron cry by telling him he's the Lord of the Rings. You are the Lord of the Rings. Sauron shoots him and then starts crying. Like a bitch. The Elven Rings are directly made by Sauron, and they completely mind control you somewhat, but not really, but kind of. And Elrond's entire arc is, well, we shouldn't trust the rings. And Galadriel's like, no, we should totally trust the rings that are made by the fucking devil. Well, we probably shouldn't trust the rings. No, we could trust the devil-made rings. And he learns that the devil-made rings are fine. There is Glug with his Glug wife and Glugling. He is the best character in the show besides Waldrick, because Waldrick just loves being evil, and he dies in the first episode, meaning his ruination is complete. But anyway, Glug is an orc who does not like war. He has a Glug wife and Glug child. He then immediately 180s and loves war because he hates Adar. It betrays Daddy, which is the name Adar means in Elvish. He betrays Daddy. It kills him. And then he's like, Sauron, the Satan, you don't understand. We're losing a lot of orcs. And then he gets killed. And there goes the best character that's in the show, Rip Glug. What are some other things I can shit on for this show? There's a lot. You can see multi-hour essays of how fucking terrible this show is, both on a structural point of view, but also on a lore point of view. How does it defile lore? Do you want me to sit here and explain it to you in 8 hours?
No.
Okay.
God, no.
But I can make fun of the fact that the main characters we're following are reprehensible piles of human waste. Because keep in mind, Satan came back specifically because Galadriel wanted to fuck him and gave him the throne of the Southlands and shit. And at no point does the show recognize that this is her fault. At no point. Oh God, we forgot about the other bad movie that came out. That's unique. Borderlands. Fuck me. This year's been terrible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that came out. Oh fuck.
Yeah, okay. That's enough of the TV
That's
shows.
all
podcasts.
we're gonna say. All right, podcasts. What have you guys actually been listening to that isn't our shit?
So I have weekly been listening to Tim Dillon. I think he is one of the funniest comedians we've had in a while. Imagine the gay love child of George Carlin and Chris Farley.
Up there.
This is a guy who was laughing with the now VP-elect with their mutual hatred of Dick Cheney.
As for myself, I I kind of just
Funny guy.
randomly watch one-off podcasts occasionally when they catch my interest. I usually watch the disgusting long-form video, or alternatively, I take to listening to audiobooks. So in terms of podcasts, I haven't really watched too many of them recently. At least not this year.
Oh, also VTubers. They don't count as, I don't know if they count as podcasts, but
They can. I'm more of a stream. I'm
It's
more of a
been-
streams and audiobooks kind of guy, or long-form video. I'll watch them occasionally, but like aside from just occasionally, I can't really think of any that come to mind.
As for me, I've been following quite a few. I want to give a couple of shout outs here. The God Talkers podcast. If you want to learn about Glorantha, they're one of the better ones out there.
I might
You
watch
can
that
find them
one
on
then.
Spotify. Their episode of the Lunar Empire is very enlightening. Along with they had that as sort of RPG guy, but not really. Bud's RPG review.
He's good.
He's pretty good. If you haven't seen him before, he does exactly what he says in the tin. He's also got his own podcast that he does some other stuff on. Other than that, for just random bullshit podcasts, one that I found, and I found it years ago, still enjoy it quite a bit, is it gets weird, which is, well, it gets weird. They talk about, like, aliens, ghosts, supernatural bullshit.
Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
No, it's just that's what they exclusively cover. It's two dudes just doing that, and then they'll also do what they call the "fuck your documentary," where they'll watch these shitty paranormal documentaries, which I absolutely love. Those they're
I
so
think
bad.
I know what you're talking about, because that's one of the I occasionally watch like one-offs of them.
Yeah, like they'll do like, yes, your fucking shitty documentary that you made about like how you totally fucked an alien or whatever else.
Oh yeah, your terrible documentary. Ignore the fact that you make a lot of money off of this Bigfoot gear that you sell.
Right.
Apparently,
And that
also
you have financial incentives to advertise that Bigfoot can totally be found in Arkansas.
Yeah, they also do like entire things about one of the better ones just came out this May where they're talking about the guy that took the photos in Arkansas of the guy that's covered in just tinfoil and tried to pass it off as an alien.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because if I remember right, they actually got into a slap fight recently with the dude who was like crying about aliens raping him or whatever.
I don't know if this is those guys. There's
another dude that I watched that legitimately got into basically the conspiracy theorists' shill farms, like not on purpose, but basically covered like how a lot of it's grift. And one of the dudes
that might
they covered
be a different
actually,
guy.
It probably is.
But I enjoy these guys mostly because they just cover a lot of ground, and they also did a full series on Alex Jones, which.
Can you actually do a complete series on Alex Jones at this point? He's still alive. We don't know what he's going to do.
Well,
next.
yeah,
you could at the very least cover his InfoWar stuff, though, because it's about
basically
to
is what they did.
I mean, this is the thing. His end should be this: surrounded by government agents, shirtless, eating a steak and firing an M60.
Yeah, they also have one of the ones that they did that was actually quite good was they did one about where was that one? Right, they did the whole thing about the Snallygaster, which if you know
that's a fun one.
Yeah, and they basically go like, this is not actually a cryptid at all. This is a complete fucking just.
It's like a look behind.
Yeah. It literally he said it's there's like connections to it with like the tax reform movements and stuff. It's fantastic. Yeah, shout out to those guys. They've definitely made my time at work a lot more enjoyable whenever I've gotten the chance. Otherwise, for RPG related podcasts, other than the God Talkers, one that I've been listening to that's actually quite good was a actual play of Impossible Landscapes done by the Get in the Trunk crew, the Glass Cannon Network. Very good.
Oh, if we're gonna reference that, let me get, because there's a pretty good group that I remember that did a lot of Call of Cthulhu games.
The
Let me
Stars Are
take a
Right.
look at that.
Those are they're
That might be them, but I don't think it is.
yeah. It might not be them. They've just recently, sadly, decided that they are no longer going to be releasing new content, which is a downside because if you need to,
This is a group that I liked watching a lot of. They're called Into the Darkness Club. They did an entire series of. I first found them because I was really obsessed with trying to get Beyond the Mountains of Madness, because that was like one of my that's one of the books I've been wanting the most, because I really do love the Antarctica setting that Lovecraft did. And I
yes,
ran into them because they did an entire campaign, and ever since then I've been like occasionally watching some of their old stuff. I don't think they make anything new, but they have a lot of backlog.
right. Oh, another podcast that I quite enjoy is the Unbelievers podcast. It's just called that, the Unbelievers podcast. They have a lot of shit. They're on their nearly 200 episodes. I would recommend the one to start with. That's the most recent. I would argue probably the best one that you're going to enjoy the most is the one where they do the Art Bell open lines, because that's always entertaining to listen to old Art Bell episodes with Coast to Coast.
I would then add, I have been watching a show called Kino Casino. It's basically, if you want to know about lol cows and weirdos on the internet, they have a few prime ones.
They ain't too shabby. I think they're a little too unfocused, and sometimes, if I recall correctly, I think it's Andy that usually is the one that's the most
Yeah, Andy Worsley,
hyperactive.
who has been, God, he's been on the internet for maybe a decade, and then this fat Canadian goes by the name of PPP.
Yeah, I mostly I know of them. I just
They
find that Andy sometimes is a little too
yeah,
much.
they have started going into the alien grifters, so
Yeah,
they'll
that
probably
might
have
have
a
been
lot more content
that's
to go through.
yeah, they talked to a guy. That's the guy I was talking about who got into the alien
Oh
grifters.
yeah, link me that, because it's always fun to learn more about
Yeah,
alien
that's why I
grifters.
know him, because of Kino Casino. Yeah.
Because they are some like alien grifters. I know that this is kind of off topic, but we're wrapping up here. Alien grifters
Well,
are
no,
some of
we
the
still
most
have the
interesting.
worst and best books that we
Yeah.
covered this year, man.
Oh right, fuck.
Yeah, but
All right, should we
I
just
will.
do that?
Well, I do want to wrap it up. I say one of the things just over the year, I think we talk about grifters, and I think within our area of the internet, there are a lot of people. Like I could think of like the big thing, Grums, the 50-year-old man who was
Ex-Blizzard employee.
ex-Blizzard employee,
Conveniently left just before the breast milk allegations.
Huh.
um, who is who is leading the crusade against the woke to just have games with women with big tits and asses.
Translation: he wants the ability to sexually abuse women in his company until they either end themselves or leave.
Also, is currently grifting people over an unreleased alpha.
Of course he is.
Or like people like Critical Drinker. I used to watch
Oh
some of his
god.
stuff, but it's like it's the issue of this. They complain, they complain, and they complain, but they never do any. They never
Well, no, he
point out
did do a
anything.
book, and it's absolutely terrible.
Yep, he's also done a movie, and it's probably
It's
not going to be
absolutely
amazing.
terrible.
I will say that I'd say while he is a bit of a shill, he's less so than the one I always go with, and if we're talking in that circle, is actually Nerdrotic, funnily enough. Because if you ever watch his Friday Night Tights, which I've unfortunately done once or twice, the one I remember the most is specifically when he started doing anti-vax dog whistle bullshit moments. One that's also really turned me off as of late is Disprove, because of his weird incel appeal, because he constantly tries to go hard on this is something that only men can do. Like, are you
Yeah,
fucking
that's
real?
the
Dude, you're
is
growing your hair out like a hippie, and you're like a fucking stick. You are not the epitome of masculine, buddy.
I guarantee these people were masturbating over the leaked pics of the fappening, and now they're telling us about how we need to be thinking about traditional Christian moral values.
I fucking hate those people.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just like,
I
yeah,
no,
just
no.
like
hate those people
Jack
with a
Murphy,
vengeance.
heteroflexible, or Ethan Ralph, who did things. Look, I'm
Or
not saying that you have to be 100% on the up and up, But don't be a complete fucking hypocrite. And also, sometimes
if we
just call out people.
20,
of course, don't forget Pim Tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't remember, 20, 30 years ago, the people who were protesting against gays, saying that they were the spawn of the devil, were found to have ended up blowing boys in the back of a
Ted
KFC.
Haggard. Ted Haggard's one of the best examples.
Who was that? Was that the senator that got busted for trying to cruise?
That is not the senator. He was the megachurch guy.
Oh,
You're
right.
You're thinking. I know who you're thinking of. I just don't remember his name. He
Right.
got caught in an airport bathroom.
Minneapolis airport bathroom cruising for gay sex.
Yeah.
So you can always call out people who are the stupid shit that goes on in a hobby. Just don't become the guy who's always trying to look for it.
Yep.
Right.
And that's actually why, since we're going to seek into this, the book that surprised me most, and I'm very happy that we covered, was actually Roma.
Same.
Because that's a Powered by the Apocalypse book. I have repeatedly made fun of a Powered by the Apocalypse, but it actually used the system to its benefit to the point where I could actually see running it. That's
a good
very
Powered by the
surprise.
Yeah, when Powered by the Apocalypse works, it works. Like again, that's the problem, is that not many people know how to make it work. Those that do, like the Roma guy, again, it's a good system when you make the effort to make it work.
Still all straighter than Patrick Tomlinson. That is true. That is true.
My favorite book that we reviewed this year. Oh God,
it's done hard.
We've done a lot. I'm trying to think of just the episodes I've been on, and I'm not going to say World of Darkness Gypsies, though I had the most entertainment value out of that one, because it's so bad. I would say that overall, my favorite to talk about was probably not the fuck.
Yeah, you kind of ducked quite a few. You kind of ducked.
I did duck quite a few because I was like, I'm not sitting through this shit. I have better things to do with my Monday night.
Yeah. Which is funny, since we actually do quite a few decent ones.
Yeah, it's almost like I kind of made you guys do that. But
I will say for me, I guess the standouts for me.
Oh, I know exactly. Then you might have liked you might have enjoyed the Ars Magica, because that technically was in the year. Yeah.
That was no, that was not.
No, it was. No, it is. Multiverse of Sadness was the last because I actually have the catalog here. I cut off at Multiverse of Sadness.
Okay, so you cut off there. All right. If
because
that's the case, then
still
Ars Magica.
Because if you're wondering, Multiverse of Sadness, that was streamed, and this is why I use it as my cutoff, on December 3rd, which is within the month. We're still in the month of December.
It's not over until the clock strikes 12.
All right, that'll go. But actually, if that's the case, I have one thing that is in fact better, that I enjoyed more than Ars Magica, and that will be Chaos Factor.
Yep,
I fucking love Chaos Factor as it's a two-parter, and it is the example of late 90s White Wolf cheesiness and insanity. It is an adventure with Samuel Haight, who we spent a 5-hour stream on that man, and it's his send off until
Samuel Haight's stream is not from this year, but it was a fun one.
That was a fun one. Me explaining
Chaos
the
Factor
backstory
was a strong runner-up. I think Ruma, though, my favorite was probably Chaos Factor. The biggest surprise, though, was definitely Ruma.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When I watched that back, I'm like, yeah, this is actually good. The one that was the big runner-up for me for what I was doing was probably the Renaissance Mage setting, and then third place was the Star Trek RPG, because I was shocked by how good the Star Trek RPG actually was.
So in order, the biggest surprise was Ruma. That's not my favorite. Chaos Factor's number 2, because my true favorite that we covered is the Empire source book from Star Wars West End games.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Then it would be Chaos Factor.
I almost forgot. Honorable mention, at least for me, is also the Glorantha source book, because it was fun to get to ramble about esoteric bullshit for 2 hours.
And then my honorable mention would actually have to go to I would actually go with, because the Age of Enlightenment, the Age of Enlightenment Mage and Demon was really good.
Yeah.
But I also really liked the end of the Ptolemaic Egypt. End of Ptolemaic
that was a
Egypt
fun
mummy.
one.
Yeah.
For me, I guess I got two things that I when I think back that I really enjoyed discussing. One was the Black Crusade Corn book
Oh, all of the
because
Black Crusade books are good. It's
all
just
the
I can't label my favorite because
the
I
the,
think it's
the
unfair.
corn one. I think it was for me. It was the planet that was covered in water and just full of shipwrecks that may or may not come from the surface of the planet or come from below it. And there were also giant shark creatures in it. I think what it was, the worlds, they were tough and violent, but they weren't just simply corn, oh, just killing everybody. They had detail. There was the planet with like I guess, Chaos Marauders, and then Warhammer 40K's, I guess, version of Chaos Dwarves.
If I recall, the Corn book also has the Delusional Imperium one,
Yes,
where they
the
think they're
one
an
where it's
imperial world, but they're basically
both,
just sent
yeah.
to be punished, essentially.
Well, no, I think it's both sides think that they're Imperials.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
The one though that, and I guess because I ended up in a rabbit hole with it, the My Little Pony RPG.
That was a fun
More
stream.
so because I had always known about it. I took like the month to like actually like look into the setting. I can say I can see why people got into it. Animated show was very good, and I can see why people got attached to the characters. I also found it completely funny that the next version of the show, which I believe is the fifth generation, basically was the last Jedi for the fandom. In that all of the achievements that were made in the fourth generation gone. All the characters dead. They're fucking dead. Uh, and just to see, I guess this whole, I guess the whole series and the whole fandom, it was just an interesting thing to learn.
It was a fun stream. Actually, yeah, my favorite stream we did. Ooh, favorite stream. I'm trying to remember because I do find enjoyment over finding things that are terrible, but I also sometimes don't.
I think it was the Tomb Raider one. Also the Sorcerer one. I think it's because it reminded me of college. It reminds me of academics, and I just find it funny that I can understand this text, even though it's complete bullshit. I can understand it.
I think the stream I had most fun doing was the two-parter for Chaos Factor.
That was a lot of fun to read
That was
through.
one of my favorites in terms of streaming, because it's wild, it's crazy, there's a lot of stupid shit, but it's also really fun. Runner-up would actually be the Star Wars ones back-to-back from the Empire and the Rebel Alliance. Although, the Rebel Alliance one, no, because the internet kept hemorrhaging. Yeah, that
It
one, no.
it it, it did, but
But the
as a Star
content was
Wars,
fun.
yeah,
It made
because
me
like,
remember why I liked the IP, back in the
and,
good days.
and what's funny is just how much of these books, it's not just those source books, but a bunch of the other ones are fundamental to Star Wars lore.
Yeah, they are.
They literally define the setting as it would end up being. Um, Worst game though.
Oh yeah, the worst one we did this year, the worst game. Oh god.
There's three from.
Worst game that I was part of has to be Advanced Lovers and Lesbians, even though there is the standout of the can't be gay setting. That one
Yeah.
was fun.
But we're Cadel Obscura. I the writing in that just really pissed me off. It's again writing these cultures as if they were just Seattle. There's
The
really no conflict to it. Everyone gets along, and yet this is supposed to be a horror setting.
I don't think I can make that my worst book that we covered because I don't remember a fucking thing about that book. Which
The other thing
actually
also,
is a testament. I am putting it in my top 3 worst just
the,
because of that. Because that
the
It takes talent to actually forget the whole book.
The other thing is a lot of this also was forced for the GM to handle the
Yeah.
development of the story, to handle the characterization and the monsters. Imagine a Call of Cthulhu book that just doesn't stat out or give you any monsters.
The worst book I would actually have to go with in terms of just quality. Oh boy. Because Candle Obscura is insipid, but I wouldn't rate it as the worst.
I mean, Tomb Raider was scolding. Uh,
I
for me, though,
actually think the worst book we covered, not the one that I hate the most, but the one that I think is mechanically the worst, has to go to Tomb Raider, and here's why. You can literally throw your characters into lava and burn them alive, and they won't die. You could sever their fucking head, but because of how the system works, they won't die. You can legitimately do all these horrible things to them, and they won't fucking die. The runner-up, just because it's a fan game, is Princess the Hopeful. The version we read was
There's a
horseshit.
reason I skipped that. There is a reason I skipped that, and that isn't just out of principles, because they're terrible. There's nothing redeeming about them. They're just like, I want to do Madoka Magica, but just fucking play mage.
I would probably say that the worst structural book probably goes to the version of Princess we looked at. The Tomb Raider RPG is the worst book that actually got published, though.
Actually, no. For me, the worst I think overall, Gamma World.
Oh yeah, no.
Be-
I have to change my vote to that because that is awful.
Again, there's a
Because-
reason I skipped that.
Well, this is a character-focused game.
Shit.
So why do you have randomized cards as your abilities? And not only that, you force players to buy more packs to get better cards.
Yeah, that's the worst game in design principle out of the whole thing. It's just, ugh. Here's the funny thing, like, I would say on average we mostly covered decent books. It's just we had a wave of bad in the middle. Oh God. Yeah, that's the worst book. The book I hated most, though, I honestly, just because of it, the honorable mention goes to Candela Obscura because it's such an insipid and forgettable book that if I can't remember a thing about you, that is a testament to your failure. That is a complete failure to thrive. Number 3, I would have to probably put Gamma World 7th because that is awful. It's a horrible book and it's basically killing a long-running IP. Number 2 goes to Advanced Lovers and Lesbians because it's terrible. It is a cynical cash grab that basically treats gay peoples as morons who fling their money at nothing, at everything, just casually with no thought. That's pathetic. The fucking worst, though, for me has to go to Hardwired Island. That is the thing I hate most. Hardwired Island's new expansion pack was the worst thing we covered. In terms of most insipid, most forgettable, it doesn't even give you full complete adventures except for the last one, which is the only one that actually fucking bothered with. That is my least favorite. That is the one I hate most. It has to be Hardwired Island, with a very close runner-up by Advanced Lovers and Lesbians. Very close. It's really close.
You know what's funny? I've been to multiple shops. I have seen Advanced Lovers and Lesbians. I've seen Cadell Obscura. I've seen Kading Crow in a bunch of these shops. I do wonder if the reason why they get money is they somehow scam businesses into just buying their shit.
Well, you have to buy. Basically, the way that these work is that you have to buy them. You have to buy them, company, or if you want to get the stuff that actually sells.
Oh.
That's how comic books do it, and that's pretty much how game stores do it too. I would say the one that's most repulsive is Advanced Lovers and Lesbians, just because it is soulless, it is cynical. It is basically going, these homosexuals, they're full of gay and their money are easily parted. Now, you give me money, you'll be doing good for the world. But in terms of insipidness and patheticness, it's Hardwired Island. It's the worst setting I've ever fucking read. It's
We
all
didn't even
cat
finish the
cafes and
setting.
nothing. No, it's so
Actually,
bad.
no, that is to me. I think the best one is when I read the last. I think it was an anime cafe or it was an anime reference, and I just say, "Fuck it, I'm done."
Yeah, Hardwired Island is just it's cringe. There's no other way to put it. It is cringe.
What was the book that you hated most that you were here for?
Again, I
Please,
think I already
add
said
it,
that.
add it in the comments. Because
Oh yeah,
comments
you
help with the
guys,
algorithm.
audience, please tell us what was your worst book you've read this year for an RPG system? Doesn't have to be one we covered. Just what is the worst one you've had the misfortune of reading?
Oh, that reminds
then-
us. We've done this for years. So, what's the worst book you think we covered?
Oh
Or-
God.
Over the many years.
There's candidates. There are some serious
You know, the
some
funniest thing is I wouldn't
serious
count any of
candidates.
the Chris Fields books we've covered because I don't count him as a real writer. We've
Fair
covered
enough.
Black Tokyo, but I just don't see it as an actual game. I just see it as shitty porn, so I don't really count it. I think the thing that it has to be Changing Breeds for me, because
I mean, Changing Breeds is like one of the top.
do you want to know why I have to give it to Changing Breeds? First off, the ethos that it was written with was with absolute contempt for Werewolf the Forsaken. It's very clear Phil Bricado fucking hated Werewolf the Forsaken, so giving him anything werewolf related was bad. But the big reason I have to give it is, besides causing a lot of psychological pain, it drove one of our actual regulars, he used to be a regular, it drove Alan to alcoholic spiraling. And that's why he doesn't show up here anymore. It's so bad that
I
he's
wish
like,
we were
I'm
kidding.
done. I am finished with this.
I genuinely wish we were kidding about that, but no, it's the truth.
He got blackout drunk in the first episode and basically retired from doing these afterwards.
A game so bad it killed one of the hosts.
No, he's still around. He's just
But
no, he doesn't want to do anymore. That's my worst that we've ever covered.
I think Chalt is the worst. Again, because I'm gonna say two words that'll trigger you, Adam. Cat milk.
Yeah, there's I've actually strongly considered it when I thought of the worst book we've covered ever. I strongly considered it.
I mean, we also sort of covered Fatal.
We really didn't.
We didn't.
We did character generation, but that was.
It's a terrible system, and everything about it's fucking awful. I think compared to Changing Breeds, it's just not as painful.
I mean, Changing Breeds is such a painful game. Just everything about Changing Breeds, aside from one chapter, is like, this is just werewolf. Shitty werewolf.
An honorable mention goes to Extreme Meat Punks Forever, a game so fucking non-existent and broken that we didn't even finish the book. It's very rare that we don't finish a book. Hardwired Island also is one of the few that we haven't. I think the worst book you were on, actually, Tech, is probably when we covered Beast.
Beast? I mean, I was the one that said we should do Beast, and I was the one talking about it. The editing on that episode, where I'm talking about the mechanics and everyone else is fucking dying
The first 2 minutes to Hungarian Waltz number 5 is very fitting.
Yeah. There was also
Yeah, there's a book that I've compared negatively compared to Chalt. I believe it was either Advanced Lovers and Lesbians, or it might have been Hardwired Island.
Hardwired Island is so insipid as a setting.
It was either like here's the thing, game design has gotten so bad that sometimes I'm like, Chalt sucks, but you can actually play it.
No, you can't.
Yeah, technically you need another book to play it. That's the thing you gotta remember.
Yeah, like that's the thing. You're like, well, you can do. No, you can't.
Well, no, I think you can. You just need to take a bunch of weed and just scream gibberish for an hour or two.
The main ones that people are saying are Tomb Raider, which I completely understand. It is an insipid and insulting fucking book. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is obviously one quite a bit. And last but not least is a little bit of Chalt. I think the big winner is Thirsty Swords Lesbians, and I don't fucking blame you because that is the. I actually define it. I think it could be defined as a hate crime. I think you can define it as a hate crime too.
I think because it can piss off everyone. People of the LGBT community and people who are homophobes and transphobes.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no! Remember, it pisses off. Let's go through.
Because the
It pisses
content is
off gay
offensive to
people.
both of them.
It pisses off gay people because they're done in a stereotype that's cynical and pathetic, and it's very obvious. It pisses off transphobes because it has tranny stuff in it. It pisses off TERFs because it has tranny stuff in it. Like you name a person on that rainbow, and outside of it, it pisses them off. It's kind of amazing.
Good job, Evil Hat. You united everybody in hatred of you.
It could even piss off minorities because their take on India was such a shit show. It was like magical science Buddha hour, but they didn't do anything with it.
And you know what? If hyenas could read, they'd probably be pissed off of it too.
I think the hyenas would be too busy fear laughing, because if you ever hear a hyena laugh, that's them in terror. They are afraid when they laugh like that.
Yeah.
So, Coyote and Crow is saved by one thing: the sentient woolly mammoths.
No, I just think it's not bad enough to count.
It's not. The other thing is that there's some genuine attempts with that.
Yeah, you can tell that they were trying to do something.
Mechanically,
they're
it's
trapped
solid.
They're trapped by the fear of creating something. If they just went, fuck it, here is this unique Native American culture, and that we're gonna throw in this culture here, this culture there. We're gonna have some weird sci-fi aspect here, weird fantasy aspect in this culture, and just go to town with it. But instead, they just have Cahokia and nothing really about
and
it.
they don't even fluff out Cahokia well.
Because that's the thing, you have the potential for this unique sci-fi cyberpunk city.
Yeah, they did things like saying this is a base 12 system.
Where
the society is base 12. That's unique.
Interesting.
Okay, you don't do anything with it.
They did create a fake language as a trade language, which that would exist.
That's impressive. Genuinely impressive.
They had different civilizations, and
they don't
named
anything
them
with them, really.
Well, they named them within their own culture, so that it's not like here's the Navajo people. It's distinct. The problem is that they should have really just developed it more.
Well, also the best part is it's Native American lore written by actual Native Americans, but the problem is I don't even think they did enough research into their own fucking culture.
That was the other thing, is that
or if they did, they were too chicken shit to actually do anything with it.
They left it blank. I believe they left it blank on purpose so that Native Americans could put their own culture in there.
Yeah, fun fact: the Diopsid is actually full-blooded Native enough. Like I think it was, what was it? 1 out of 8, 1 out of 4 or something. 1 out of 8, I think. And he deems it as a complete waste of your time.
Which it's just.
By the way, this means that technically, by this logic, the Diopsid could totally go full red face and it'd be fine because he's an indigenous person. Go full red face, call him Chief Wahoo of the Slapio Mama tribe, and it'd be fine. He'd be like, I'm from the Slapaho tribe.
Because it's like with Warhammer. They have defined civilizations, defined cultures, but you know what? It's a big universe, and if it's taking place in what would be the United States, it's a big landmass.
Also, you could have just
so
done
many
a Greg
cultures.
Stafford. You could have just done a Greg Stafford and been like, okay, here's a bunch of practices and traditions that say the mound builder cultures had. We'll mix it up and then throw it in a blender, add in some basic ideas that we know of their religion, what little we do, and then make that like the thing. But they don't do that. They were too terrified of doing that, so they basically neutered their setting. They made
And
it
part of it is
tame.
also, like, historically speaking, a lot of the cultures that they might be taking inspiration from are post-mound builder cultures after the collapse of Cahokia, which anachronism stuff comes in. It gets really
It doesn't
wild.
it
and
doesn't
weird,
matter
but who
though. You
cares?
go with the empathy. You go with the spirit. You go with the feel, the vibes.
Right. It's vibes-based world building. If you can do that, it
Like, it
helps a
doesn't
lot.
have to be 1,000% accurate. Like, my idea of a floating nuclear temple powered by Inti. That's fun.
The Inti nuclear temple is fun. I just want more giant mammoth, more than mammoth culture, because that's a genuinely unique idea.
Imagine going to a temple just to talk to like your mummified great-great-grandpa on whether or not the girl that you like will be willing to date you. And you imagine grandpa going, "No, you are a loser. Start looks maxing better, dork." Like, you
That's
could
just
do
every
that.
fantasy setting with talk to the dead, though.
Yeah, but you could do that. That was a thing that the Incans did, that the Wintonsuyu did. They had huaca, which are spirits, usually in the form of their ancestors, which are mummies.
Right, but when we're talking like North America, like
You could still do that there.
there's a lot you could have done, and you could have
You
done it
could
with.
have done what Glorantha did. Glorantha's surprisingly really big on the whole diversity thing when it comes to even gender norms. You got
Or just
Handan and you
cultures.
got the male and the
Like
female and male
the
roles.
Hjortlings consider
Fingans.
that they have 6 genders, which is that
Yeah.
they have male, female,
Hellerite,
Hellerite, non-done,
Vingan,
Vingon,
and
and
Nandan,
none.
yeah.
And then none, because there's some things that just don't have a gender in their view, or people that simply just refuse all other designations, and thus they are none.
So you could do that with like the equivalent of the Navajo, where it's like they're not even trans. It's like you're in. Here's the term for male and woman profession, which was common in the Navajo. They don't do that. They don't do any of that because it could be seen as offensive.
Also, they didn't need to edit it to explain what they did with that 4th child, because if I do remember, they said, what was it, like 3 out of 4 children? A woman has like 3 out of 4 children or something like that.
Yeah, and then one child is sacrificed for the goo gods or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, and also they play around with super soldiers cyberpunk, but not really. They barely do anything with it.
They don't really dedicate
like
themselves to it.
I did like the one thing with the weapons. I think they had an Addle, but they also
They
had.
didn't have any guns, but they had to try to find ways to make guns.
They did have a sort of gun, and I loved this little thing. It was like a mag shot, like a magnetic sling. So it was basically a Gauss rifle that was like handheld.
Which is fun, but then you find out the reason they don't have guns is they think it's an evil white man invention. And like there's a lot of just nasty opinions in the construction of this book. Like actual fucking racism in the book, and it's really funny.
Well, you're saying Lost is a throwback to decent times?
Just started to watch Lost. What a throwback to decent times.
Lost was not Lost was an okay show for like the first season, and then after that it just goes fucking downhill like everything J.J. Abrams ever wrote.
Yes, because it's made by J.J. Abrams, and he has a mystery box and nothing inside it when he opens it.
Technically, he wasn't the only writer. It was David Lindelof. He just foisted off his responsibilities to Lindelof further. By the way, Lindelof is also responsible for the dumpster fire that is Prometheus, since he wrote the script. Well, rewrote the script from Alien Engineers.
But on that note, that
wrapped up
the year. I think the year overall okay.
I'd say middling to bad. Pretty good on the RPG, on the TTRPG standpoint. Television, not so much.
One thing I've read, comics.
Movies, fuck no.
I've heard. I mean, comics, they're still shit, but there's the Energon universe that Skybound is doing, which is incredible. If you're a Transformers fan or a G.I. Joe fan, pick it up. I've heard the Absolute Batman's actually very good. Other than that,
comics have at least somewhat recovered, but it's just basically a dead industry.
And then I'm not following keenly anime and manga, but there's probably something for you.
I'm following a few, but admittedly, I hate to admit it, I read fucking Korean shoujo, like villainous shit.
If you haven't seen Berserk, they're still making it.
Don't. This is the 2016 one with all the CGI. Don't.
No,
see
no,
that.
no. I meant the manga.
Yeah,
Oh,
manga's still
wait. They came out
chugging.
with a new chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I didn't hear about that.
Remember, Miura at least wrote the outline before
Miura's
he died.
dead. Miura's dead. His best friend is taking it on, and they will finish it.
And he wrote at least an outline for how it's supposed to sort of end, so it's in as good as a set of hands as you could have. Again, I wouldn't really know much about comics, but yeah, I would say 2024 overall. Okay year for RPGs. Not if you're a Hasbro fan, not if you're a World of Darkness guy, but outside of that, it's looking pretty good, especially if
It
you
was
like
pretty
Warhammer.
solid. Pretty solid.
In terms of entertainment, I'd say it's a little better than 2023. I
Not
mean,
that much though.
I'd actually
Barely.
argue there's even more horrible shows and movies, though. It's just
We
there's
kind
a
of got
few more good movies to kind of balance it out.
we got spoiled at the start of the year by Dune 2, and it kind of went all downhill from there for a long time.
Hey, don't
Oh, I
worry,
forgot one.
Sonic 3 will raise the grade point average from failing to still failing, but just less embarrassing.
I completely forgot. They concluded the Horse Heresy book series.
Oh yeah, that.
Oh
Not
yeah.
They
interested.
did, and there's problems with. There's issues, but I do have to say this. I think they started in 2006, so this is what a
Nearly 20
18
years.
18 years
nearly
in the
20
making.
years, and they concluded it, and it's a satisfying to okay conclusion if you're a diehard 40K fan.
And as for our bests and worst, the one that I liked the most probably has to go to, like I mentioned, I very much enjoyed the Star Wars ones. I also liked Roma as a surprise. The worst, structurally, I would probably have to give it to. Fuck. I think I said Tomb Raider.
You did.
Structurally,
think-
Tomb Raider, the one I hated most is the Eclipse phase.
What?
Wait, Eclipse phase?
No, you mean
Hardwired
Hardwired
Island.
Island.
Sorry, I'm starting to
Like,
fade.
calm the fuck on.
my brain was like,
No.
okay, what's the
No, no,
sci-fi
no.
setting? Oh no, that's the wrong one.
Cyberpunk.
Eclipse
you-
Phase is the good cyberpunk
It's great.
future RPG.
No shit, I said the wrong one. I meant
You mean-
Hardwired Island.
You mean Shadowrun Red 2077?
Sorry, my brain
Shadowrun
was
Red
trying.
20.
My brain is trying to forget Hardwired Island, so I'm like, what is it again? Oh yeah.
Shadowrun Phase 2077. Yeah, my favorite RPG.
So yeah, favorite one that we did was probably Chaos Factor. My favorite book we covered this year is probably the Empire Source book. Worst book goes
Most
to
fun.
Hardwired Island.
The most fun you had was the pleasant surprise was the Roma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same Presence
A
of Flights,
Powered by the
Roma.
Apocalypse game that Adam likes.
Yeah. I guess funnest stream, My Little Pony, and I guess favorite overall, the Corn Book for Black Crusade.
And I think I already mentioned mine. If I was having enjoyment for streams, I'd also mention the BattleTech ones we did. I always enjoy doing
yeah.
BattleTech.
Those are always fun. I just can't rate them high enough.
And then, yeah, we've got next year. Well, there's probably gonna be more 5th edition stuff.
Masquerade 2 is gonna get shat out, so that's gonna be.
We should probably
unpleasant.
someday do D&D's new edition. I know we wanted to do stuff for
No, we shouldn't.
Delta Green.
You know what we should do? We should do Delta
We
Green.
wanted
yeah,
to
like
do
you
Delta
said.
Green, yeah. Something with it.
And one thing I've wanted to do, I really want to do D-Genesis.
I know you do, but it's like, oh god. I have a feeling that's going to be like a 4-parter.
Oh, it will be a 4-parter. Oh, it will be a 4-parter.
And also, I really do want to show you the horrible and amazing backstories. Well, they're not all horrible. I want to show you the goofy fucking backstories of the Nazgul, though, from Middle-earth role-playing in Gorgoroth. I want to show you guys that, because it's so
One of them
silly.
include being hit in the head with a frying pan by Samwise Gamgee.
They might actually describe... They actually might... No, because that was a movie thing.
Aw.
That's a movie thing. But instead, we're going to have female Nazguls in the 90s, meaning that Middle-earth role-playing game is woke in the 80s and 90s. And we're going to have Kamul the Easterling wanting to fuck his stepmommy. I can't wait to show you that. It's going to be so dumb.
Though before that, we will finish this year off with
The
a board
greatest
game.
board game ever made. In honor
Twilight
of Hanukkah.
Imperium.
No, fuck you. We're playing Oy Vey.
Yes, this Jewish game that was made in the 70s about Jewish American culture in the 70s.
Being also about being a Jewish mother in the 70s. Your objective is to get your kids to either become a doctor or marry a doctor.
Also, at some point, I'm going to see if we can do... What was the terrible Changeling book? Blood-Soaked Tide or whatever?
Blood-Soaked Tides is not actually a Changeling book. It includes a really terrible part with Changelings, but it's actually a source book for World of Darkness on the Seas, which is, if any of you have ever tried to run a nautically themed campaign ever, don't. It's awful. You will never succeed at it, and you will just suffer.
So yeah, Blood-Soaked Ties is going to be something we do next year. I'm going to show you the Gorgoroth book.
We'll have to censor some parts of it for YouTube.
There's a disturbing amount of fish tits, and I don't know why.
I know exactly why.
Well, I know why, but for fuck's sake.
But
yeah,
good
next
night,
week
all.
is Oy Vey, y'all.
Yep, happy Festivus for celebrating. Merry
We have
Christmas.
aired our grievances, mostly Adam though.
Yep.
You
Happy
know what
Hanukkah.
this means, though? We have to do the contest of strength. Quick, let's throw out all of the terrible copies of Tomb Raider, the RPG we have.
We need to chuck my 12 copies of Fatal in the trash bin.
My physical feat of strength is going to be to throw every copy of fucking Chalt I have down the dumpster.
We just keep finding them. People keep sending them to us. We don't even have a P.O. box, but it's like the fucking Red Letter Media crew and the Nuki tapes.
Yeah, we just get, like, for some reason we get Chalt, and I don't understand. It's usually stapled to a copy of fucking Wraithathu, and I don't understand why the two get
I don't understand why. Yeah, and I don't understand why. It's like I order a burger and they deliver me fucking advanced lovers and lesbians. It's just...
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm gonna huck out. We gotta throw all the copies of that out. Fuck that book.
At least you guys don't have this book.
Fuck that book.
I just found it in the mail. It's called A Song Without Travel. It's got this weird yellow symbol
Fuck
on.
you.
Have you seen the yellow sign?
Fuck you.
By the way, thanks for joining us, Melwinius. We do have a Discord, and it's in the description if you want to still hang out with our psychotic asses.
Yeah. Actually, both ImpCit and I have recently finished running Impossible Landscapes for our respective groups.
I wish we could show you it, but it's not happening.
It would be a disservice.
Yes, it is something that if you are intending to play Delta Green, don't read the book. If you're intending to run Delta Green for someone else, buy Impossible Landscapes. Run Impossible Landscapes. It's
buy
good.
It even if you don't play Impossible Landscapes.
Yeah, it's worth it just to mine for ideas. And if you're like even like a Call of Cthulhu GM, buy it, adapt it for a fucking 1920s stuff. Go for it.
And with that, we'll leave you to it. Have fun, y'all.